Indeed, you can join the league as we are back here for the AMX Global League Season 4. This is the AMX1 Light Series from the Red Bull Ring in the MX5 Cups. And what a tantalizing race we have in a couple of races we have in prospect, because it's a short Red Bull Ring layout and in light and nimble cars. But we'll get the formalities out of the way soon. But as you can see in the background there, a really nice circuit in the Styrian Mountains, home of the Austrian Grand Prix, and definitely one of the more beautiful sights in the world of motorsport, where the mountainside really just complements the circuit quite well. Hello then from me, Amin, alongside me, Damon, and we are live here today for a really good combination, isn't it? Light car, short track. We're going to see some action here today, aren't we, Damon?
Yeah, definitely. Especially since we took a week off. As you may have known, we didn't have any races last week. But we're back. We're hoping for some more exciting races. I've definitely missed the atmosphere. I've missed the high intensity that we've had both in AMX1 and AMX10. So really looking forward to it, Amo.
Certainly, Damon. And, well, I think the drivers certainly have so as well, because the guys that turned up for the practice session as well is by the plenty. So really then another element, isn't it? Because it's some drivers that we've seen before throughout this season and we are familiar with, that know how to race in this league. Again, the concoction is there. As you can see, the socials at the bottom. AMX Global on Instagram, Twitch, X, formerly known as Twitter. So we managed to change that so that people will know now that, okay, that's the logo currently. Discord, where you can actually just join in and interact with the drivers. We're live on YouTube, and of course you can still sign up via our website amxrace.com with some short form content on TikTok later on. Now then, we're waiting for the queue to go into the housekeeping straight away after this, before we can go into the nitty-gritty action, which is going to happen right now. So, yep, what's up? Hope you had a great day so far. To the comments that come in. Season 4 overview. This is the season that has been starting since January 27, and we will finish on April 21st. $20,000 of money up for grabs and next level gear at the end of the season, with a format that we can see right now is familiar for those who have raced for the last couple of seasons. 20 minutes qualifier, and then a top 15 reverse grid with heat 1 20 minutes and another top 15 reverse grid for race heat number 2. So that is what we have in the Season 4 overview. Next up, driver camps are required, with a balance paid out $100 each month for those who have actually reached that threshold, with races being held Tuesdays, Saturdays and Sundays, and you can sign up to race at any time at amxrace.com. So the schedule then, this is now, as I've pretty much said throughout the entire season so far, is homogenized with the start time for AMX1 at 5:50 p.m. on Tuesdays, Saturdays and Sundays, and AMX10 at 7:20 p.m. So everyone now can see the times are there, and you can just sync it up to your schedule so you can actually race with us here tonight. Now then, next up is the prize pool that we have here for the drivers, and it's $7 for pole position in qualifying. Imagine that, qualifying also pays out as opposed to just also getting points. The slowest can get 20 cents, and then when we flip the script on its head, the top 50 reverse grid goes into heat number 1. You can get $7 as well. So up to this point, 14 plus 1, 15. And if you manage to win the second one as well, it will be about $22-ish. $23 as a total if you actually manage to win a triple crown here, with the prize money up to $100. Right, so next up is the top 12 in MX1, and surprise, surprise, some of these names are familiar to those people who have been watching the AMX Global Series for the past few seasons, including the likes of Mauricio Lozano, Connor Healy, who's been doing excellent this season. Been knocked off his perch a bit. He's dropped to third after being in first for a few weeks, but no doubt if he was to take part today, he can actually just add up his winnings and possibly challenge for the title. Fourth, Diego Villarreal, then for Cudarago, and Mateus Machado round out your top 6. Rest of the field, Gerardo Ramos, he will be here tonight, so watch out for the man with the most expressive of webcams, where he can actually be unpredictable sometimes. Behind him, Fabien Ogier, Lautaro Gayoso, Fabrizio Belzini, Daniel Antunes, and Lucas Verle round out your top 12 here in AMX1, the top 12. Now then, this is what we have in the separate standings. This is actually the sub-series of the category itself. This is AMX1 Light, the top 10. So from 10th to 2nd, Marcelo Viales, Renato Parra, Xavi Pla, Machado, Mercerat, Vasquez, Diego Villarreal, Ramos, and Antunes are playing catch-up to Mauricio Lozano, who's not only fast during qualifying, but he's also fast in races. He's actually racked up quite a few fastest laps in the championship, so he'll be one to watch out for if he were to be in tonight, and in fact he is. So a healthy points buffer for about 37.5 points. In fact, it's almost half the points that he has over the rest of the field, so no doubt everyone will be playing catch up here. Now then, last bit of housekeeping work to do before we get into the nitty gritty. We have the promotions that are still going on as of now. With the DG promotion, the season DC tickets, you can purchase the entry 3 days before the race and get 30% off, which pertains to all AMX Season 4 races. But on the flip side, you get the season DC tickets, where you'll have season entry tickets available for purchase. These tickets are for each class, a total of 6, so it's divided between AMX1 and AMX10 with the 2 subclasses in there, and will provide up to 50% off to all races of set purchase class. So you can actually get a more bang for your buck if you actually purchase this particular season ticket. Now then, with the housekeeping out of the way, we get to see what car we are driving on and what track we'll be driving on as well. So without further ado, Damon, take it away here to see where and what are we racing on.
Thank you, Amir. And yes, today's race will be held on the Red Bull Ring. Both races, in fact, for AMX1 and AMX10. AMX1, of course, will be on the shorter national layout, while AMX10 will be on the regular GP layout. So, about the Red Bull Ring. I think this is a very well-known track. I'm pretty sure everyone that's into racing has heard of it. Home of the Austrian Grand Prix, of course. Started life in 1969 and was called the Österreichring all the way up until 1995, when it was rebuilt by A1 and ran all the way to 2003. And then it was decommissioned for close to 8 years before Red Bull reconstructed the track into the famous layout that we now know and love. About 2.3 kilometers is the national layout. It cuts through turn 2 and goes straight into what is the GP layout's turn 7, making for a relatively short track, but very high speed in certain sections. And of course, speed is of the essence here, because the cars that we will be taking on the track today, none other than the Mazda MX-5 Cup car. Slightly stripped down version of the regular MX-5 with a little bit of power boost, about 155 horsepower. Front engine, rear-wheel drive, weighs less than 900 kilos, runs on a sequential gearbox. I would say one of a great beginner car, but of course none of the drivers here are beginners, in fact. So we're about to see some really intense racing with these cars, and all the better for it, because these cars are the essence of grassroots competition. So I think I've said more than enough right now. So putting it back to you, Amir.
Yeah, thanks for the overview, Damon, on the car and the track that we'll be racing on. But key point to note, as we said at the top of the show, how these lightweight nimble cars and the short track will provide some good action as we go head into qualifying now to see what's what and who's in front. So then, remember we went through the overview just now. It's a 20-minute qualifying session. We're already halfway through it as we jump into race 17 of AMX1. This is the light class, and as it says on the tin, it's lightweight cars, and you can see how much steering input that Adecopa Lopez had to go through there. 9,000 I rating. Now that is very high for the class that he's racing in, but nonetheless, we're happy to see a very competitive guy here taking it to the rest of the field, who are no doubt no slouches either, as he comes to the end of the lap coming through Rin Curve. This is normally turn number 9 at the Grand Prix layout, but it is now turn number 7 here in the shortened version, the national circuit. Onto the start and finish straight now. We see that he is on the 58.5. He's definitely not going to match his time previously because it looked a bit slower than before. Crosses the line now. and in fact, it was a slow one. It was 1 minute and 2, Damon. So, waiting to see if anybody else can improve. In fact, Gerardo Ramos has a 58.9 there.
Yeah, he's still a bit behind Ade Lopez here, about 4 tenths separating these two right now. But there's still a bit of time for them, and the track is relatively clear, so these drivers do have the freedom to set fast laps. I'm looking especially at turn 2 and 3 because those are the slowest corners of the track. And the most important part with these cars is that they don't have that much power. So conservation of momentum is going to be paramount here because you need to carry that speed to the high speed sections.
Certainly, especially through ring curve coming into the final corner here onto the start finish straight. In fact, we were looking at prior to the start of the program, we were seeing Assetto Lopez on our screen, so that was Lopez. To confirm now, we didn't know who he was at point. Now we know who he is. Across the line he goes, and it's 6 tenths slower than his previous time, but ahead of his fellow Iberian Gerardo Ramos, who just set another personal best of 58.9, still about 4 tenths of a second behind with the championship leader in the MX1 light class, Mauricio Lozano, in P3, 5 tenths behind Paul Lopez. So the times are tumbling a bit at the moment as we are coming into the business end of qualifying. 7 minutes left to go, as the only driver who hasn't set a lap time so far is Nico Godoy, who's normally leaving his powder dry, proverbially, towards the end of the qualifying session to set a time and see where he can end up. But at this rate, he will be on pole position, as remember, top 15 get reversed, and with 9 drivers on the track right now, Godoy is in prime position to take that pole position. As we look at Lopez coming to the final corner here, can he improve, Damon?
Well, we'll have to see as he enters the start-finish straight there. Did seem to be a little bit slower in that last sector. And yes, you can see on the timing board that 58.9. So not an improvement again. He's going to try and put in as many laps as he can. We've got about 6 minutes left into qualifying. And it really goes to show how much you really want to conserve as much speed, because the moment you slow these cars down, they take a long time to get back up to speed.
Yeah, but having said that, they're actually quite light for converted road cars, just under a ton. And yeah, as you said before, momentum is crucial in these things, but it's a lightweight car, so you can actually just get back on the throttle quickly. But the lost momentum that you could have gained from being on it to chase out another guy, that's where it really hurts you, doesn't it? When you try to better this, especially look at behind Lopez. We have Ramos in fact, so Ramos is following him closely in his slipstream, coming across the start finish straight. As you can see, someone commented on the high I rating of Abe Lopez. Yep, 9.3k. Wow. And a license across the line he goes, a 59 flat. Ramos actually improves ever so slightly further, even more, a 58.9 still, but faster than before with Lozano behind. They both go into the pits. So does Diego Villarreal. As we look at Jay Hanan, who's on the back section of the circuit, onto turn number 7 on the course. That's supposed to be in turn 9 on the Grand Prix layout. Interesting rig that he has there, doesn't it? Because it looks as though he's using a study table to be for the basis of it, and he's using a big screen. But apart from that, the Korean lad comes through the final corner. Then still about 5 tenths to find behind Vinicius Dean, as we have Renato Parra as well, who hasn't set a lap time just yet. Godoy has done so, 1:04. Across the line goes Hanan. Looks as though no improvement so far, but still maintains the middle portion of that top 10. Do you see the lap times tumbling anymore, Damon?
I mean, it's really hard to say. We've got about 4 minutes left for qualifying, and the drivers are still, I think they've pretty much found their groove. But at this point in time, since Lopez and Ramos have already gone into the pits, I don't see them going out for another couple of laps, because we don't seem like we have that enough time to really go out there, and you'd still have to warm up the tires when you leave. Aside from that, however, the gaps between the drivers' times between the top 10 is quite slight. As you see Hanan there, losing it a bit into Rinsack, and there he goes.
Yep, corner name after the posthumous 1970 world champion Jochen Rindt. It's not the way that he would like to pay tribute to Jochen there, but he does go back to the pits, and he lives to fight another day here, as we have about 3.5 minutes left in qualifying after this. We're on board with Nico Godoy right now. We can't see much of him because he's probably turned off his lights to focus on the racing, and hazard to guess that he will be probably wearing a hat in the shadows because, again, he's the guy that wore a Luigi hat before and a couple of other funny hats, including Santa's hat during Christmas. So Saint Nico, as opposed to Nicholas, coming across the final corner. Then he is, I think, on his out lap, by the looks of it. He might have been on the time lap, but we didn't see any marker coming out right now as he comes across the line here. Still minute 0.4, stays P8. So no improvement as of yet, as a couple of drivers who are now making their way out onto track, including Jay Hanan, who had that slight spin coming through Rin curve. He's on his out lap too, but as you rightly pointed out, Lopez and Ramos, those guys who were fastest, who said their fastest time before, are still staying in the pit lane.
Yeah, and Maurizio Lozano is still out there trying to see if he can get that extra tenth of a second to edge out Ramos. Hasn't seemed to be able to do that so far. We're pretty close to the end of qualifying. So at this point in time, I do believe that this will be the final standings going forward. And you can see, like, even though these cars aren't particularly fast, they can still catch you off guard if you're not really paying attention, as we saw with Hanan earlier.
Yep, swap end over end, front over end, might I add, because he was literally facing the wrong way. But to his credit, he didn't rejoin the circuit and cause a ruckus. He decided to come back into the pit lane and regroup for another try. As, oh, look at that, Nico Godoy, big opposite lock moment coming out of turn number 1 onto the truncated section of the Grand Prix layout. Now we're actually onto the south end where the Suchschleife or the national circuit is coming on. This will normally be turn 7 on the course itself of the Grand Prix circuit, but this is turn 5. By the looks of it, though, it might just be Godoy improving ever so slightly. Looking at his sector times, he is improving on his previous best, but not sure it will be enough to get him out of the P8 right now. As we look at further in front in the timing sheets, Mauricio Lozano.
Yeah, sitting out right now, almost going pull up into the start finish right now. We just have to see if he manages to improve his time. We've got about 1 minute left, and he won't be able to set another lap once this is over. I was a bit mistaken that he just exited turn 3 here. Still about halfway through the lap right now. Yeah, and there he is. I think he sacked it. He wasn't happy with that lap, I think.
Yep, he calls time on his qualifying. So Lozano, normally a quick qualifier, and he's quick in the races as well because he can manage to harness that race pace to get fastest laps. We'll have to start in towards the back. P8 as a matter of fact for car number 8. So Lozano behind Ramos and Lopez, but he'll start in front of them when we flip the script. As across the line comes Hanan, he still stays P6, 5/10 behind Vinicius Dean, with another driver who managed to join into the server, Roberto Bruno, in P7. But that's the end of qualifying, and it is Ade Lopez who has the highest iRating and is the fastest qualifier. So bring on the race then. We get to see fast guys right at the back try to carve their way out through the front as we wait for the results from qualifying to come on our screens, and then we can go racing for heat number 1. But here we go, there we are. Your BenQ session winner in qualifying, Ade Coba Lopez, with a 58.591, 3/10 to the good, in front of Corrado Ramos, his fellow Iberian, with Mauricio Lozano, Mexican, in 3rd place, just ahead of Diego Villarreal and Vinicius Dean that round out your top 5. So Iberian, Mexican, Uruguayan, and Brazilian make up your top 5, with a Korean, best of the Asians, in P6. Then Roberto Bruno, Godoy, Mercerat, and Para, who didn't set a time in qualifying that time, but he'll be on pole position for the first heat, Damon.
Yeah, and a relatively incident-free qualifying session is always good to see right now. And we're, of course, going to heat 1, where we'll be in reverse grid order with a bit more cars on the track than previous sessions. I'm thinking we might see a little bit more action on the start line this time.
Yep, no rolling start, as we see a couple of cars with really nice liveries to look at, especially the SART guys that Villarreal's driving for, and the Adult Swim car by, well, I thought it was actually Ramos's car, but that might have been Godoy's car. So Godoy is running the Adult Swim livery, as now, barring the funny conversations that's happening at the bottom of our screens where the chat is really on it tonight, we are looking at on board with Jay Hanan, who is testing out his wheels. So Luckily, he straightened it out as we gonna hear the revs rise pretty soon. The lights on the gantry will come on, and when they go out after this, we'll be away for heat number 1 pretty soon. Yep, they're testing everything right now. We're still waiting for the lights to come on the gantry. All 10 drivers who made it into qualifying have now gridded up. So, here we go then. Heat 1 on the ready. Revs rise. Lights come on their side. And we will go racing here in the Red Bull Ring. And it looks as though it's a good start for Mercerat with Godoy just bogged it a bit at the start, but it looks as though everybody actually made a clean getaway off the line as we come up to turn number 1 then. Mercerat, Godoy, Bruno, Villarreal, and Dean goes on the inside. It goes side by side through turn number 1. You do not normally want to go that tight, especially with multiple cars fanning in together, but look at the wide shot there. 9 cars on the grid, so we have lost Para. Looks as though he didn't even make it to the start of the race. But Godoy, he's on the inside. He was up to second at one point. Drops it into the infield, and in fact put it behind Lozano and Dean.
What happened there?
Terrible.
I'm gonna have to see a replay of that because it seemed like relatively incident-free turn 2 and turn 3, and then something happened. Probably a little bit of contact going on between these drivers right now. But just like that, Dean and Lozano gonna have to play catch-up to a humongous extent. Villarreal there down to P6. One of our more consistent drivers there, but is privy to a few mistakes of his own. We'll have to see if he manages to execute an opportunity against the 500 drivers in front of him. Right now, Mercerat in front with, of course, the Lightning McQueen fangirls inspired livery, I would say. And you can see there Lopez just making a move on Hanan, making it look really easy coming out of turn 1 as they enter turn 2. Now Villarreal will also try to pull up alongside Hanan. Little bit of a shot there from both drivers as they're coming into turn 2. And then Hanan accidentally just touches the bumper of Villarreal and pushes him away. What a pit maneuver.
Oh, that was a bit of retaliation, I would say, because Villarreal was actually robust in his overtaking. But Hanan as well, likewise, came back with the equal and opposite force, as Newton's third law would tell you, to just dump Villarreal out of the way. But luckily, they're all still in the race, as opposed to Para, who unfortunately didn't even make the start. On board now with Pablo Mercerat, who's up in front. And then again, you mentioned just now, fittingly, the fangirls of Lightning McQueen were also in MX5, albeit it was the older Miatas. Really, it was quite fitting that he got delivery on here. But we can't mind delivery too much, as coming out to turn 1, Mercerat goes wide. Bruno's up his rear, and Ramos as well is watching brief, with Lopez posted behind them. Coming up to turn number 2. Ooh! Did you hear that shunt? Damon? That was a big one.
Yeah, that was rough. That actually forced him really wide out and slowed him down to a point where he ended up losing 2 positions. You can see the Dean incident alongside Mauricio Lozano there. Oh, crashing into the back of them and then spinning both cars out. That is really unfortunate for these 2 drivers early on, and means that they have to try a lot harder than they would have liked to get back into the pack.
Yeah, it was unfortunate Lozano was actually the collateral in that particular instance, because it looked as though Villarreal was right beside Dean that time around, and Dean just got spun with Lozano coming in later, and just became, again, as we said, collateral in that particular instance. If we look at Ade Lopez, who's really on the charge here, 7 positions, and Ramos as well, 8 positions gained. So the guys who started way at the back have gone up to the front, as we look on board with Lopez onto the inside of Bruno. Bruno actually left a bit of room there, so that's really kind of him, and cuts across the racing line when we thought Lopez was going to get it. But on the back straight here with the slipstream, it looks as though Lopez has the bit between his teeth, or does he? Bruno cuts across and really has to make it work for the money there.
Yeah, Ade Lopez trying to make a pass right now into onto the rain curve. Oh, a little bit of scraping going on between these 2 cars. Now Ade Lopez still hasn't been able to make the move happen on him yet. And the important thing is that we note that this move started all the way back in turn 3, where the run off of that exit is so important for you to carry as much speed as you can to turn 5 into turn 6. And you can see here, Ade Lopez is now trying to make another move as they're coming up to turn 1. Gerardo Ramos is the biggest beneficiary of all this right now, taking a lot of advantages right now. You can see the Villarreal and Hanan incident. Villarreal tries to make the pass, and then Hanan retaliates quite aggressively spinning him out and then costing Villarreal his race.
Oh, that was really nip and tuck, wasn't it? But I think if the Kara stewards were to see that one, that will probably be having the book thrown at Hanan because of the severity of the incident. Because Villarreal, yes, of course, it was a bit of a robust overtaking maneuver, but the way that he got dumped out afterwards was probably going to be in his favor, especially given the fact that Hanan just spun him around. So, again, they can actually go to the stewards on this later on. The Korean Auto Racing Association, Kara, who are our official steward partner, they will definitely be looking into that. Now, on board with Mercerat, in fact Lopez with Mercerat behind, Ramos is streaking away at 59.1, but only 3 thousandths ahead of Roberto Bruno. So Bruno then is also pretty close despite battling with Ade Lopez. Lopez is not keeping Bruno out of his sights as he goes on to the inside, coming out to turn number 2. They're going to go at it side by side. Again, you mentioned about momentum. It was crucial that he kept the momentum up, but because he's battling with Bruno, he lost a bit of momentum that round, and that's why Ramos is now about 7/10 of a second head, but he's cleared Bruno at last, and will have set his sights on his fellow Iberian.
Oh, Mercerat is now trying to make a move there. Ooh, a little bit of contact there. We saw Bruno just lose it a little bit, probably due to a shunt right now. Brake checking a little bit there, coming into the Rin curve. Mercerat is going to try and make an overtake happen. If he gets a better exit out of the final turn into the start-finish straight, it doesn't look like it. Bruno is pulling ahead just so slightly, but Mercerat is in the slipstream. Meanwhile, Ade Lopez and Ramos are clearing them. Ade Lopez with the fastest lap of the session right now, 8.8 as they're coming to turn 1 right now. See if they can make the move. Ooh, Bruno loses it a little bit, and now they both lost it.
No! Oh, that was to be expected, wasn't it? Because you saw how Mercerat was right up the back of Bruno, and Bruno was getting ever closer, but contact was inevitable because one guy in front was slower than the other behind, and they went pirouetting. Biggest loser of all that is Bruno, in fact. He's dropped to P8, now P9. He's actually towed his car back into pit lane, whereas Mercerat is continuing the charge, but the other big beneficiary was, in fact, Jay Hanan, who's up to P3. That will be a turn up for the books. He has... it's been a long time coming for him to get a podium in AMX Global. We'll love to see him back up again, but we mind that after this, because up in front, 2.5 tenths separate between Gerardo Ramos and Ade Lopez. These two guys definitely were working together at one point to get up to the front. Now the gloves are off, but the guy behind is definitely the faster of the two, because 59.1 last time out, 59.4 for Ramos. Lopez has got the bit between his teeth, Damon.
Yeah, and as you're battling in a 1v1 situation, the car at the back almost always has the advantage because it's hard to set the pace, but it's very easy to keep up with the pace of a car, especially when you have slipstream in the back. And slipstream with these cars is actually really important because just an extra 1 or 2 kilometers an hour could mean the difference between an overtake and just maintaining the position right now. As you can see, Lopez is narrowing the gap down to about below 2 tenths as they're coming up the Rin. It doesn't seem like they're close enough to make a pass happen yet, but anything can happen, especially when the start-finish straight is so long that these cars will be able to... Lopez might be able to pull up side by side to him.
And you can see there, Ramos smoking it up in front, quite literally and figuratively. The gap between the both of them is about a tenth of a second, and it showed in the lap times as well. 59.2 for Lopez, 59.3 for Ramos. So Ramos has responded, but he's still just slightly slower than Lopez behind him, as Lopez is just inching ever closer, trying to pressure Ramos into mistake. But Ramos has actually won from these situations where he has been pressured a lot before, and he has soaked it up quite nicely, especially when really fast guys are right behind. But this is a different matter altogether, isn't it? Because Lopez, by sheer iRating as well and skill we're seeing right now, is the fastest to the drivers and looks as though he's dead set on winning this race. But Ramos will just give him a fight for his life here, as now we're coming up to the halfway point in this first heat. It's still just an absolute paper-thin margin between the both of them.
Yeah, it's testament to like how short these laps are when you're only at a halfway point. Right now, you can see the gap between these two drivers about 300ths of a second separated than the last lap. Gerardo Ramos is being pressured quite considerably by Ade Lopez here. But look at that, Ade Lopez with a better run. The exit is now pulling up right to the bump of Gerardo Ramos. Will he be able to make a move? Doesn't seem like it. Meanwhile, Diego Villarreal loses a position to Mauricio Lozano near the back there. Good overtake for him. We haven't been able to see it, but we're focused on the battle in front of us right now. Car number 34 of Adi Lopez and car number 69 of Gerardo Ramos locked in the battle, which has been going on for quite some time now.
Yeah, Ramos takes the time to blaze it, and as he should, because he is blazing a trail up in front for Lopez to follow. But for the time being, at least, I think Lopez is working together with Ramos because they know full well that the gloves will come off in the closing stages of this race, that is, of this heat. But for the time being, he's just happy to tuck in behind the slipstream, save a bit of his tires and a bit of fuel to just go for that final attack. The guy in front, and you mentioned that before, it's better to be the pursuer because you're not under that much pressure. You just want to keep up to the guy in front. The guy in front is having more pressure looking behind here, and if he were to step a bit in the wrong direction or get his lines crossed up, that will be the time for Lopez to strike.
Yeah, it's basically the entire premise of Initial D, if you think about it. It's like all the drivers being scared of whatever's popping up behind them, and it's a dinky old A86. Not quite the same situation here, of course, as both of these drivers are in the same car, but the pressure is still definitely there for Ramos here. And Ade, you can see here having to let off on the throttle just a little bit. Don't want to cause an incident, especially when these two cars are really close together. Any mistake from either one of his drivers would probably take them both out of the race.
Yep, as Juice Keith is asking the question in the comment section, is in fact the Iberian club. So that's the peninsula for Spain and Portugal that faces the Atlantic Ocean on the west side. So we just, to be on the safe side, we just call them Iberians. So we don't want to offend the Portuguese or any Spanish folks that are watching here, or Spanish-speaking folks and Portuguese-speaking folks, especially given the fact that the South American guys are speaking mostly Spanish, but the Portuguese guys are represented in Brazil, as a couple of names are being in there. Now we're going to get a full-screen replay of what happened a couple of laps ago, as incidents aplenty are being looked at right now. Damon, take it away for the replay.
Here. Because the BenQ replay, you can see that Mercerat and Bruno in a massive clash right now, and then you can see Bruno is trying to gain as much distance from Mercerat as possible. They're coming out to the start-finish straight. We can see there he's under a little bit of pressure. Might have braked a bit too early into turn one. We'll just have to see when they come to it right now on the replay. Brake a bit early. Yeah, braking a bit early. Mercerat tries to dive in on the inside. Actually, Bruno's exit was quite poor. Mercerat wasn't expecting him to slow down that much, and then taps the back of it and spins both cars out.
And you saw just now how Mercerat actually jumped the curve big time, as a bit of afters as well. It's no wonder I think Bruno went back into the pits, because his car got a secondary contact afterwards. As we go back live with Next Level Racing here. Is another replay, in fact, of what happened a couple laps afterwards, or is it? No, we were live at one point. As up in front, it's still Ramos ahead of Lopez, but for how long? Because again, Lopez has been working together with Ramos here, but the proverbial gloves will be coming off in the closing stages, because Lopez knows full well he's got the pace here. As we skip ahead in real time now to the battle with these two, 59.6 for the both of them, as behind that is Dean with Lozano and Mercerat as well involved. Side by side is going to go 4 wide here on the start finish straight, Damon.
Oh my god, 4 wide coming. I've never seen this before. They're like drag racing all the way up to turn 1. Mercerat actually lost quite a bit of speed coming out of the exit there. A little bit of a shot there. Oh, Dean! Oh no! That was a big hit. Pushes Mercerat into the wall, losing his front bumper, and I think that's Mercerat's race done and dusted.
Well, he got finished off, and again, is that point of contention at turn number 1. Really, he will not be liking seeing that turn again, but he still has one more heat to deal with after this. That was an unfortunate incident, and I think Dean cut across him as he was trying to take a racing line. Mercerat on the outside had nowhere to go. He just got clattered into the barriers, as now we're on board with Lozano with a fast-charging Dean. These two have had a bit of a bust up at the first lap as well, but wasn't a through the fall of both of them, because Dean was spinning and Lozano was the unfortunate bystander in that incident. It's a clean battle between the both of them, as Lozano still maintains the position in front of Dean, but Dean looks really racy here as we come into the final 5 laps of this heat, Damon.
yeah, it's clean for now. As we can see that the battle damaged car of Dean is still relatively okay in terms of mechanical damage. Physical damage is a different story. Villarreal is slowly extending the gap there. As you can see, Ade Lopez still trying to make a move onto Gerardo Ramos, and the gap between them has not increased nor decreased even a little bit, as these two are locked into a battle. And because of these two drivers going really toe-to-toe and increasing the gap between them and third place as well, as we're going through a full replay of what happened in that massive drag race coming up to turn 1. Well, I'm going to take it away.
Here's that BenQ replay now. Yep, go ahead, Damon.
Okay, you can see there, Mercerat is holding it straight, but Dean actually swerves a little bit into the path of Mercerat there, forcing him out, and that was a big hit into the barrier there. Mercerat ended up losing a lot of suspension damage there, couldn't even steer the car to get out of trouble, and that was pretty much curtains for him.
Yep, and a race that looked, a heat that looked really good for him at one point to be on the podium has gone up in literal smoke because of a bit of smoke after he collided the wall there. But the upshot for him is that he'll be starting in P2 for the reverse grid race in heat number 2 after this, as we flip the script on his head. But that's the sort of finish to a race that he would not want, and he'll be absolutely gutted by that. As back up to the battle in front, Ramos and Lopez, 59.6 again for the both of them. But you can sense that Lopez is the faster of the two drivers, but he is hanging back because he's working with his fellow Iberian up in front, and it showed because look at that, the gap between themselves and Jay Hanan is about 14 seconds. They've gained at least a second a lap on the Korean to be where they are right now.
Yeah, it's almost crazy how much they're cooperating with each other. You can see the battle between Dean and Lozano is heating up right now. Lozano tried to make a move onto Dean, actually manages to keep ahead of him coming out of turn 1 right now. Dean probably not going to be too happy with that. That was a very clean overtake from Lozano. Now Dean having to try and catch up to him. The gap is actually quite wide. We'll see if he'll be able to narrow it down within the next 3 laps or so, as the cars in front, Villarreal and Hanan, are pretty much in a race of their own, not really having to concern themselves with the cars in front or in the back.
Yep, but I think by my reckoning, I'm just going to guess that Lopez will attack on that final lap because he's got plenty of opportunity to do so. Turn 1 and turn 2, the prime overtaking spots, as we look on board with Vinicius Dean trying to get up to the back of Lozano. You can see just now that our production team behind the scenes was zooming in, and we can almost guess that that's what he's looking at, his line of sight, trying to get up to the back of Lozano. These two were already coming a cropper earlier in the race, but now they're fighting for a top 5 finish, with Dean looking the racier of the two, and it's proven the previous lap. Dean was faster again by just a couple of tenths in front of Lozano, as we are now coming into the final 3 laps. Lozano is under a bit of pressure, but maybe, just maybe, that car has taken a couple of punches too many.
Yeah, you can see the picture right now. The Alpha P1 is about to heat up soon. We've got less than 2 laps. Lopez under much more comfortable position. But here comes Dean. He's going to try and make a move on Lozano here. Gets the slipstream, gets the pass. Will he be able to make his stake? No, Lozano has the inside track into Rin, and Dean has to go wide. So far, seems to be still in a really comfortable position to mount an attack. We'll see whether or not they make the exit. Both of them probably are having the same exit speed coming out there. But again, Dean is in the slipstream, and now might be another drag race all the way to turn 1. They're pulling up side by side. Will Dean make the pass before turn 1? Does look like it. Lozano gonna have to let him take that position.
Oh, that was a beautiful camera angle. It's like those rotating cameras that we have in the Americas when they do broadcasts for NASCAR or IndyCar. That was beautiful, but we can't mind the beauty shots a bit too much right now, because on the rear bumper camera, we're seeing Vinicius Dean now becoming the hunted, as Mauricio Lozano is only about 2/10 of a second behind. As across line goes Ramos and Lopez, the battle between the two of them has still not been resolved. We're on the final lap. White flag flies. 2 different battles we're looking at, and bang on cue, Ramos saw Lopez on the inside, but he didn't heat it that much because he knew that he had to keep it wide. If he kept it narrow, he would have actually gone even slower coming through to number 1. Does he defend for turn 2? No, he actually blocks it quite nicely coming into there and still hangs on to lead. So Lopez now has a fight in his hands, Damon.
Yeah, we'll have to see that. It's a very short track, so there's not a lot of opportunities to make a pass happen unless you have a very good run out of turn 3. Looks like Lopez might be slightly faster on the exit. That he's right in the slipstream. Will he try and pull alongside him as they're coming up to the rim curve? Yes, it is. And Lopez makes a move on the inside, slides it a little bit, but forces Ramos out onto a wider line and takes that overtake. What a spectacular move on the final lap. But here comes Ramos on the inside as well. They're pulling out side by side. It's a drag race to the finish. Almost a photo finish we can see right now. Lopez takes it by just a hair.
By about 44 hundredths of a second, and you can see the reaction on both of them. Luckily, we have side-by-side cams nowadays. We can see the reaction of both of them. You can see Ramos thought he had it there because he was on the inside, but Lopez held his line. He actually stalled the momentum just a bit, and it was enough for him to take the win. So Lopez in front of Ramos in an entertaining battle from start to finish. Hanan with an anonymous but still noticeable podium in P3. He will be absolutely delighted with that one. Villarreal also likewise was out of the cameras for a while. He's 4th, 5th Lozano, and 6th is Vinicius Dean, as we look at the rest of the field coming through, including the likes of Nico Godoy there, and behind Pablo Mercerat, a race to forget for him. But as the result, we're waiting for the results to come by here. It is a brilliant battle from start to finish. 41 hundredths, in fact, was the final gap across the line for Adecoba Lopez in front of Gerardo Ramos, his fellow Iberian, 1-2 with a Korean in 3rd, 16 seconds behind Jay Hanan. He'll be happy with that podium, with Diego Villarreal, the man that he was fighting for earlier, in 4th place, just a further 4.7 seconds behind. Lozano afterwards, then Dean, Godoy, Bruno, who had a race to forget as well after being in a collision with Mercerat, who finishes 9th, and Renato Parra, who didn't even start at all, unfortunately, he's in 10th. So that was heat number 1, and then a very entertaining heat 1. Roll on heat 2, Damon.
Here we go for heat 2. Getting ready now. Ooh! Hanan bogged the start there. That was unfortunate for him. He's going to end up in last place now as they're coming onto the run for the turn 1. We'll have to see if it becomes incident free. As you can see, Lopez and Ramos already in the battle for their own positions right now. They're stuck behind the rest of the pack, but we'll see if they'll be able to make it to the front quite soon right now. Barring any incidents, you can see in front of the pack, Mercerat holding on to the lead. There's an incident. I think that was Bruno forcing Godoy off the track. And Villarreal also goes off for Ramos.
And we were on board with Lopez that time. We saw Villarreal once again, turn number 2, not his favorite corner, just like Roberto Bruno and Pablo Mercerat not liking turn number 1. But Hanan, despite bogging the start, is able to pick out a couple of positions from that one. Hara has unfortunately not started once again. But Godoy, just as he said, it would look like a clean start. He actually flopped that particular script, goes off at turn number 2. But not much problem for Mauricio Lozano though. He's up to P3 right now behind Roberto Bruno, with Pablo Mercerat up in front. These 3 guys had an eventful first heat. Yep, eventful first heat. Lozano on the inside. Ooh, that's very close, Damon.
Oh, it's very tight. He jumped the curb a little bit there out of turn 1 right now. He was really trying to go as far in as possible when it comes to Bruno. Ended up costing him quite a lot there as Vinicius Dean now takes the position ahead of him, dropping him down to 4th. So now it's a battle for P2 right now. But of course behind we have Ade Lopez and Gerardo Ramos waiting for a mistake from either of these drivers. And as we've seen before, there's going to be action aplenty.
Certainly. And we saw that in spades in the first heat, as Godoy is currently the biggest loser out of everyone here. He drops all the way to the back of the field, -5 positions. On the inside there we have that other rotating camera shot. It was really nice. We could actually see the the hand movements from Lopez as he dives on the inside. Lozano with Gerardo Ramos this time is the one being the chaser, coming to follow suit. Or does he? He thinks of a move on the inside. It's 3 wide coming through turn number 1. Lozano is going to be the one who's going to blink first, and Ramos goes through. So it's about the same as the first race, but does he hang on to it? He's going to run a bit wide here because Lopez gets a tight line. Here's a nice rotating camera shot, seeing on the inside. There goes Lopez on the inside of Ramos, lets him through, and the roles are reversed once again.
Oh, the switchback overtake from Ramos there wasn't quite able to make it stick because now he has the outside line. and ended up losing a position to Lozano, who is now on the tail of Ade Lopez. So now Lozano is the new participant in this battle between these two drivers. The three-way battle right now for, I think this is P4. And meanwhile, the top 3 positions are kind of secured as of now, but we're still very early into the race, so anything can happen.
Anything can happen because Vinicius Dean as well, who is involved in plenty of the action in that first heat. He's going to be looking in his mirrors because look at that. Lopez with another scintillating lap time here, 59.6. Not his best one just yet, but only because there's traffic in front. As Roberto Bruno goes a bit slowly through turn number 1, Vinicius Dean is going to follow suit. There's around the outside goes Lopez. 2 cars going through there's not going to work. And somehow we see there's Vinicius Dean on our camera here being overtaken by Lopez. And Lopez with another well-judged move goes out to P3.
Oh, what a masterclass in overtaking from Lopez. Able to accurately judge how much he's able to take over that line from Dean there. Ramos there, making it past Lozano. He wants to catch up to Lopez as quickly as possible. But it'll be quite difficult with all this traffic in the way. And he's battling with Lozano as well. You can see in there, getting ready to pounce. Will he be able to make it past Dean and catch back up to Lopez, who is now steadily gaining positions there as he tries to make it. Lopez swerving outside, trying to make it into turn 1 ahead of Roberto Bruno. Ooh, very nice dive on the inside that cuts across the corner beautifully and makes that pass. Again, will look a masterclass.
Yeah, but he sold Bruno the dummy there because he went inside, then around the outside, which forced Bruno to go narrow. And because he went narrow coming to turn number 1, he was going to be forced out wide if he hits the sausage curb, which he did. And that let Lopez come through. So that 9.3k iRating that he's got, it really is worth every single one of the points that he has earned in his entire iRacing career. You can see how well he drove there to get up to P2. Now he sets his sights on Pablo Mercerat, who's going to be defending the lead with all his might after what happened in the first heat where he got involved in a scuffle for the podium and unfortunately came away empty-handed that time around. Now he's got to win in his sights, but for how long can he keep it?
Yeah, Lopez is cutting that lead very quickly now. It was 1.3 seconds at the beginning of the start-finish straight, now down to 9/10 of a second. Gerardo Ramos that is still trying to get past Dean, hasn't been able to find an opportunity to do so, and he's quite far away right now, unless barring a mistake from Dean. Braking a bit late there, trying to catch up to the tail, see if he gets a better exit there coming out of turn 2 into turn 3. Again, very nice and tidy through there. Cutting on the inside a little bit, trying to get a better exit. Doesn't seem to be able to do that just yet. Both of them exiting at around the same speed. However, Ramos is in the slipstream. Will he be able to make a move? Doesn't seem like it as they're coming into the rim curve right now. Bruno is holding both of these cars up as well. So now it's a battle for P3 as Lopez is inching ever so slightly closer to Mercerat. And I say slightly, but he narrowed the gap down to, he closed the gap by a second from the start of that lap until the end.
Yeah, case in point, look at that. About 7/10 of a second that he gained in that lap alone as we now focus on the battle for P1 with Mercerat in the Miata Fangirls of Lightning McQueen tribute livery. Behind him is a all-pro livery, of course, of Ade Lopez. About 4/10 of a second behind, coming through turn number 2. Now 3, 4, and 5. Onto the back straight they go. As we look behind from Lopez's point of view, how he has actually gotten away from the battle for P3 as Vinicius Dean gets overtaken by Mauricio Lozano. There's Lopez making his move for the lead. Right the outside coming through Rin curve for the 7th time. Looks on the inside. Mercerat sees him, cuts across again, and that might compromise his exit because he tried to go narrow, brakes early, and that will leave the door open behind, and he is trying to prevent that door from opening. Mercerat on the inside, Lopez on the outside coming through turn number 1. It reflects in the lap times how much Lopez was bogged that time despite being 3/10 faster. Into turn number 1 they go again, and it looks as though this time around, however, Lopez gets a better entry, but the exit was poor, and that will leave Mercerat an opportunity to go inside, outside, wherever he wants, because he's the guy who was attacking, and he somehow didn't manage to make the move stake. He's still P2.
Oh, and this battle is heating up now because you can see that the cars of Roberto Bruno and Gerardo Ramos and Lozano and Dean are just close the gap between these two cars. That battle there, Mercerat ended up slowing both of these cars down just enough for the rest of the pack to catch up. So it's now on the onus of Lopez to try and make a move and gain as much time as he can, as Ramos tries to make a move on the inside of Bruno. There, will he be able to make it stick? We haven't seen yet. No, he doesn't right now. And this battle is just intense. Coming in for Lopez, he's tapping the bumper of Mercerat, trying to force him to let him through. Right now, will he be able to get the slipstream in and coming into turn 1 as they cut over? You can see Lopez there trying to catch into the slipstream. A little bit of a slip coming there for Lopez. Might lose a little bit of speed. Holds second position right now, but that gives space for Roberto Bruno and Ramos to catch up. Ramos now tries to make a move onto Bruno. Makes the pass happen. Will he be able to make it stick as they're coming to turn 2? Looks like it. And Ramos, again, a big beneficiary of that. Bruno lost a lot of speed coming into turn 2 there on account of his poor exit from turn 1. And now Lozano is hot on his heels trying to make the move happen.
Yep, all the while then, Lopez and Mercerat were still going at it hammer and tongs. We're trying to look at two different battles, but all of them are on screen. The Fast 6 right now, only separated by about a second all the way to from Mercerat to Dean. It is absolutely at a knife's edge right now. We're not even halfway through. Now we are. And it's still Mercerat defending with all his might, almost for his life even, as they go side by side that time around. Mercerat on the inside, Lopez on the outside. Lopez has taken the lead for a while, but Mercerat deeper on the brakes and managed to hold on only just for the time being. And all the while then, the guys who are third and below are managing to catch up right to both of them.
Oh, Ramos going a bit wide and tried to make a dive happen onto Lopez. Doesn't seem to be able to make it stick. And now Bruno takes advantage of that poor entry and takes over Ramos's position. A little bit of contact there. Bruno loses it just a hair, managing to keep it under control. But Lozano is going to benefit from that, trying to make the pass happen to Ramos. Does make it stick. Now Dean is also trying to get his share of the positions there. Ramos losing out quite a bit on account of that poor entry to turn 2.
Big time, because it is a long straight afterwards, and as you said before, momentum in these cars is oh so important, and because of that, Ramos lost a couple of positions, but he didn't lose the slipstream for guys in front, so at least he can still fight a couple of more laps here. As further up in front, Lopez and Mercerat once again, but this time Lopez gets the better on the outside, outbrakes Mercerat into turn number 1 and takes the lead of the race, Damon.
Oh, what a clean pass again. Now Lopez has a very considerable gap there as Dean makes it past Ramos, but looks like might be a little bit of contact coming to turn 2 there. Ramos is trying to hold on to the lead as best as he can. Does get the switchback on the inside of turn 3 and takes away that position from Dean. So Dean's going to have to try a little bit harder to get that away from Ramos, but he has a tall ask if he wants to stay within his, he wants to keep Lopez within his crosshairs, because Lopez is now just running away from the pack. Oh, a little bit of a shot there coming out from Bruno and Lozano. Lozano losing out on that. Ramos takes opportunity between that battle and loses that position. Dean is also coming alongside Lozano, takes the pass over. And now Lozano is quite a big loser there, but they're on the start-finish straight and they're pulling on side by side. Both of them out of a slipstream of the rest of the pack right now. We see who manages to win out on the battle into turn 1 right now, but here we go. Dean on the inside track loses out to Lozano, who gets the cut across the sausage curb.
Yeah, once again, these two are almost inseparable, aren't they? Because in the first heat as well, they were very close. In fact, sometimes a bit too close for comfort. But they're going to only fight for P5 and 6 because Ramos, Bruno and Mercerat are pulling ever so slightly away from them up in front in P2, 3 and 4. But for Mercerat, it doesn't look comfortable. And especially given the fact that the guy behind him is the guy that he whacked in heat number 1, Damon.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy how intense the battle is. I mean, we saw in heat 1 that these battles spilled over into incidents that cost a few drivers their races, but so far it's just been clean battling coming out from all these drivers, and you love to see that.
And certainly what we said at the top of the show, the small track with equally smaller cars but highly chuckable. It's producing good racing, as you can see. Bruno, big touch, and there goes Bruno. Into the barriers he goes, spins like a Beyblade and into retirement, presumably because that car needs to be towed back, and he has. He's gone back to the pits alongside Nico Godoy, and unfortunately Renato Parro, who's never even started both of the heats, he's out of there. But Bruno, wow, 2 disappointing heats in a row. Your heart goes out to him, don't you? Because he had every opportunity to be on the podium, but both incidents have knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, I think that was down to car control there. Bruno was trying really hard to keep the car steady for the straight. Ended up just swerving into Ramos and then losing out on that race entirely on account of Ramos already pulling up to pass his quarter panel and then just swerved into a position. Ramos actually, luckily, survived with rather minimal bodywork damage and not really much in terms of mechanical damage either. And now he takes an opportunity to get past Mercerat. They're putting along side by side as they're coming out to turn 2. Ramos actually lets off a little bit there just to give Mercerat a little bit of space. Doesn't want to cause another incident as we've seen earlier. But again, Mercerat is under a considerable amount of pressure. You can see him struggling to keep the car under control a little bit.
Yeah, Mercerat then under severe pressure. He has buckled a bit, especially given the fact that Lopez went through ever so easy despite him battling so hard for a few laps. As the car's beginning to step out a bit. He's 2.7 seconds behind Lopez, but he's only 2/10 and a half in front of Ramos. And Ramos again with a bit between his teeth. We had to run out of turn number 8 on the shortened layout here. Onto the start finish line once again.
Oh no.
Inside is Mercerat, Ramos on the outside, and Ramos is going to do the exact same thing as Lopez. Outbrake him into turn number 1 and makes it. That was a tight squeeze that Mercerat tried to do, but Ramos just outguns him there.
Yeah, we just saw that. That could have been really disastrous for both drivers. We did hear a little bit of contact coming in from Mercerat's car, scraping across Ramos. Ramos actually managing to get away pretty cleanly, and now it is up to him try and catch up to Lopez, but there's a 3-second gap, and I'm not sure he can close it within 5 laps.
No, I don't think so, because again, how we saw in the previous heat when the roles were reversed, it was Lopez that was the faster of the two, and he was actually keeping up with Ramos. That increased the gap, but with the gap being bigger this time around, about 3 seconds, I don't think Ramos can make any inroads with Lopez, and it shows here. 59.4 for Lopez, 59.7 for Ramos, and that allowed Lopez to inch away again ever so slightly up in front. As we look at Jay Hanan on the back of Vinicius Dean, and it looks as though Dean is, well, he's not faltering, but he is falling ever so slightly closer to the hands of Jay Hanan, who's had a podium in that first heat, ready to pounce again for another top 5 finish. With Nico Godoy in the comment section, he had to leave the race. He just unfortunately was having one incident too many, and we can safely just say that it was racing, maybe taking it, overstepping the mark a bit slightly, Damon.
Yeah, a little bit, and now we're going to go to a full screen replay of what happened to Roberto Bruno there on that fateful straight after turn 1. You can see that goes pretty far wide, which gives Ramos a bit of space for him. He swerves in, trying and get a run, but Bruno just swerving back into position to try and block him. Ended up not noticing that Ramos was already too close to him to safely defend. And you can see he also gets shoved by, I think that was the car of Lozano there.
Yep, it was. And Lozano, though, for his troubles, has actually gotten into the pit lane. He is now 38 seconds behind Villarreal, so he had to fix the damage. Bruno, of course, because he went complete Beyblade on there, he's lost about more than a lap now. So unfortunately, both of the perennial fighters up in front will on the cusp of podiums respectively are now going to have to settle for lower fringes of the top 10 finish here in heat number 2. But in terms of battles on track, it's still not over yet between the likes of Vinicius Dean and Jay Hanan, battling for P4 and 5 respectively to round out the top 5. Mercerat as well, he's not that far away from Ramos as well. So close battles all around for second, third, and fourth and fifth. But up in front, Lopez, he's just inching ever so slightly away.
Yeah, pulling away a considerable amount there. Yeah, he's faster almost every sector compared to Ramos here. Ramos probably just won't be able to keep up right now. We only got about 2 laps left in the race, so I think he'll have to be happy with second place. And I think at this point in time, Lopez is probably going to be a triple crown winner, because I think he got the fastest lap in qualifying as well.
Yep, he did. So, and of course, he got the fastest lap in the races, in the heats as well. Not only is it a triple crown, but it's a complete clean sweep, a complete gentleman's set as well. Yes, he nearly every lap, so it would count as a Grand Slam, but I would still call it a gentleman's set because he was fastest in qualifying, winner in heat number 1, fastest lap as well in heat number 1, and he's on his way as well in heat number 2. So, really then, a masterfully done weekend. Well, sorry, you said weekend. I mean, masterfully done race
Tuesday,
to
bro.
just get maximum point. Oh yeah, normally we would say weekend because it's a round, but anyway, this is the whole race has fallen onto the lap of Ade Lopez with his fellow region mates. We can say because he's Iberian, just 3.7 seconds behind, and he's not able to pull away from Mercerat.
Yeah, we'll have to see. The gap did narrow just a little bit. Ramos again in a position where he is the one on the defensive. Mercerat is trying to be aggressive, trying to gain back the position that he lost after managing to maintain it for quite a while. Ramos doesn't seem entirely phased, however. Does have a better exit coming out of the start-finish straight, trying to force sway him a little bit out of the slipstream right now. You can see a little bit of defensive driving coming in from Ramos here, trying to make sure he can't get as much speed as he wants into turn 1 as the white flag is out. We're on the final lap. Lopez probably comfortably ahead enough that he won't have to worry about any of the competitors behind him, but Ramos, for him, the battle's not over yet.
Certainly, and this is again the same situation that he had from the first heat where he had to fend off Lopez. This time he has to fend off another Spanish speaker in the form of Pablo Mercerat. 0.3 of a second separating the both of them, and he defends harder this time compared to how he did with Lopez. As we look at Ade Lopez up in front, he is absolutely unchallenged with the fastest lap of the race and a complete clean sweep of the entire race that he has had. You can see Ramos and Mercerat. Mercerat gets it wrong there, and that will resolve the battle between the two of them. And you can see the hand gesture that Lopez makes is he clears your light. You can call him up in front after this, as Ade Lopez takes heat number 2 alongside his first heat win and qualifying for good measure. Ramos in second, Mercerat third, Pedro Dean fourth, and Jay Hanan just closer to him in P5. Rest of the field coming through. Villarreal, Lozano we're looking at right now after his earlier woes, after hitting the side of Bruno when Bruno was having his Beyblade moment. He's about to cross the line pretty soon because the rest of the field have done so, and Lozano then will round out the heat and another dramatic round. But unfortunately, a few skirmishes here and there that have put paid to what could have been even more nail-biting finishes, Damon.
Yeah, definitely. I did mention that we had a lot more clean battles in race 2. It turns out I was the curse that lit the spark, apparently. You can see, of course, our Triple Crown Grand Slam winner, Ade Lopez, getting the fastest lap for both Heat 1, Heat 2, and qualifying, which means he walks away with the full $23.
Indeed, he has. And again, it's a testament to the fact that it reflects well with his iRating for the skill that he has put on display here today. And no doubt, if we see him in AMX 10 after this, he will light up the charts as well. As we are now, well, probably not interviewing him after this because normally we don't really put up interviews for AMX 1, but if he wants to speak as well, that would be quite nice to have. But for the time being, he can bask in the adulation that he has taken a clean sweep here of race 17 for AMX 1, the light category. Now, as we are waiting to go back to us to just put our closing statements here on what was an impeccably good couple of heats here in the AMX 1 at Red Bull Ring for the light category, race 17. Now then, there's our sponsors at the bottom: Automatics, BenQ, Next Level Racing, and of course, Kara, our dedicated FIASN stewarding team who are watching over the action for the AMX Global League Season 4. Damon, as you are finishing up on that coffee, any closing statements you want to give on that one, and who do you think? Well, I think driver did is pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, it's Ade Lopez. Like, I've not seen any other driver since I started commentating for AMX that manages to be so dominating in a particular session. And Ade Lopez has done it. I mean, well played to him. Great driver. We cannot understate how close it was between him and Gerardo Ramos as well. With 2 second place finishes, he was just not quite on the pace of Lopez. But aside from that, very good driving. It was also unfortunate that few of these drivers didn't really get to have the race they wanted. But hey, that's racing, isn't it?
Indeed, sometimes that's how the cookie would crumble. But for the likes of Ade Lopez, he would take that sweet, sweet dough home and probably could join the AMX 10 League race for that matter, because it is absolutely intense. We've seen a few times already that the TCR cars have provided some really good action. But as we are wrapping up here on AMX 1, we get to see the socials at the bottom again after this to get into contact with us, whether through Instagram, through Twitch, through X, Discord. We're live on YouTube, of course. Sign up for our races from amxrace.com and all the short form content. I've seen some of the short form content as well. It features some really good bits and action from even up to seasons past. So plenty of content on display here, especially with the likes of TikTok and Instagram have to offer. But that will be the end of our broadcast for AMX1 for now. We're going to come back with AMX 10 pretty soon. And of course, it is another tasty and tantalizing prospect because it's the Fast Boys in tin tops after this. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for AMX 10 right after the short word from our sponsors.
save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Indeed, join the league for Season 4, the AMX Global League Series Season 4. For the AMX 10 League, the front wheel drive category. And once again, we're at the Red Bull Ring for the TCR class. So, more of the same and then some, because we've had competitive races in TCR and we will do it all again with a really good track and car combination combined. So, welcome back again from me, Amir, alongside me, Damon. And we saw just now with the short version of the Red Bull Ring how competitive it could get. Now we get the full Grand Prix layout, but in TCR cars that can really take a lot of punches and bashes, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. Compared to the MX-5s that we saw a bit earlier, we're probably going to see a bit more scraping, a bit more contact, but I think that's par for the course with these TCR cars, especially for the past few sessions that we've had. They've always been really rather competitive with each other.
Certainly. And with a field this competitive, given the fact that qualifying on average, first to whoever is the last, 20th, sometimes even 22nd or 23rd, can be separated by just over or under a second. So really is cream of the crop stuff here. As you can see, our socials at the bottom, AMX Global on Instagram, Twitch, X, Discord, and of course we are live on YouTube where we're broadcasting right now alongside the Twitch stream. And you can still sign up, by the way, even though qualifying is actually about to start pretty soon on amxrace.com. And for our short form content, it's on TikTok. So without further ado, let's get to the housekeeping, and we just want to get this done because we really want to get into the racing action as soon as we could. So then, Season 4 overview, January 27th, April 21st. You get a drill by now. Join between now and until the end of the season. $20,000 prize pool. Next level gear on the line for who are the champion. Whoever will be the champion. The races are held on a variety of cars and tracks with combos changing, or sometimes we keep it the same so that we can have a bit of familiarity. Race format, as you can know by now, 20-minute qualifying. Top 15 gets the script reversed. Then heat 1 20 minutes. Same thing for heat number 2, where the top 15 get reversed, and then another 20-minute heat. So that is what we see on the overview. Continuing on with the same theme, driver cams are required, especially given the fact that we have real good professional pros on iRacing here. Payout balances will be over $100 paying out each month. Races are held every Tuesday, Saturdays, and Sundays, where you can sign up at any time on amxrace.com. And the scheduling, as per usual, 5:50 p.m. for Tuesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and then 7:20 p.m. That was for AMX 1, AMX 10, 7:20 p.m. for Tuesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays as well, with the times being at GMT. So no messing about here. We can get the time exactly as we want it. Moving on, then we will have now the top 12. Well, no, in fact, it's the prize pool first. Then after we get to the standings. So $30 for qualifying on pole. The slowest that you can get with still getting money on board is 15th. And then when we flip the script on its head, it'll be the exact same as well. So at one point it's $90 plus 4 for each fastest lap from both heats is 98 on the card. So we've had quite a few drivers win the Triple Crown already, but it has been so difficult, especially given the fact that your minimum I rating has to be at 2,000, and the total money you can win from this race in prize pool is 500. So no messing about here, as we would be going into this race with, as you can see the names here, some of the fastest guys on iRacing with the highest I ratings. The likes of Guy Valero, the likes of Aaron Vasquez, Corentin Guinness might be a bit out of the top 6 right now, but make no mistake, you can count him out at your peril. He can be really fast on his day. Kieran Harrison likewise as well, the Brit in 4th place, and several other drivers that we've seen in the past couple of months already, in the past few weeks, who have been racing, including the likes of Dino Filippa, Resende, Kulhavi, Zampolini, Demori, Vignat, Pedrodin, and Peter Zuba, who round out our top 12 who have competed in MX10 so far up to this point. Now then, to top off the housekeeping, we have the promotions on hand here with the D3 Season DC tickets, where the D3 you can purchase an entry fee 3 days before the race and get 30% off, which pertains to all AMX Season 4 races, but you can get an even sweeter deal if you purchase the Season DC tickets. The website itself will have season entry tickets available for purchase. These tickets are for each class, i.e. the 6 of them that we have in total, 3 each for AMX1 and AMX10, where you'll provide up to 50% off for all the races purchased for each class. Now then, housekeeping out of the way, it's time to find out where and what we're racing. In terms of the where, is the same, but the what is what we're really going after for, aren't we, Damon?
Yeah, thank you very much, Amir. So, again, we're at the Red Bull Ring for today. This time we're on the GP layout, which is the layout that Formula One uses. History about this track: it was founded in 1969 and was named the Österreichring instead of the Red Bull Ring. It was only called the Red Bull Ring once Red Bull started reconstructing the track, and it was open to motorsport in 2011. So that's not that long ago. It's probably one of the newer tracks we have around here. Fun fact, I think this is the only track I know of where it's hosted 2 F1 races in the same season. Did so in 2020 as well as 2021. Ended up hosting one race as the Styrian Grand Prix and the other as the Austrian Grand Prix. So enough about the track itself. We know a lot about it. Let's talk about the cars that we'll be racing with today. And we are, of course, going to be on the TCRs. Very fast, very aerodynamic, 350 horsepower, going to the front wheels, weighing about 1,200 to 1,500 kilograms with a sequential gearbox. So these cars are going to be very grippy, very fast, and they have very short range gearboxes, so they're going to be accelerating very quickly as well. Par for the course, the most used car in this class is the Audi S3 LMS TCR car, but we do have, I think, is the Hyundai Elantra TCR car on the grid this time around. So we have one driver on the Hyundai, but most of them are in Audi. So, you know, a little bit of variety. Never hurt anybody.
Indeed, you can see the other car alongside Veloster. Yep. In fact, the other car being the Veloster beside the Elantra. So Hyundai have 2 cars on the offering. You can see on our preview screen here. And of course, the other one being the Honda Civic, and the most popular, the Audi RS3. Now we're going to go into qualifying, and a couple of other drivers who were mentioning in the comment section. In fact, qualifying we're underway right now. Final 10 minutes of sessions. We can see second phase of qualifying well and truly underway. On board, by the looks of it, with Dino Filippa. So Filippa right now on his outlap. But a couple of drivers mentioning Max is quick, and we know which Max are we talking about, because that particular Max, one of the GOATs right now, has raced in AMX Global, and incidentally just a couple of weeks ago with a controller while he was getting ready for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Would you believe that?
The guy loves racing. It's in his blood. So what can you say about that? I mean, if you're willing to race, you can race on anything. And let that be a lesson to everyone that if you're really into racing, just do whatever you want. You don't need a rig to be fast.
Yep, certainly. But again, that particular Max has a pair of fast hands as well. Not only is he good with the wheel when doing his day job, but he's also quick when he's doing his leisurely activities and racing competitively against some of the one of the fastest guys in iRacing. And well, he proved the point how he could actually manage to keep the car on the road to finish in top 10 in that particular instance. But again, it's just that kind of passionate guy who's really a real voucher for sim racing. You no doubt we can safely say he's one of us in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. And now we are back on the track right now. I'm going to pull up the leaderboard in just a short while, but I can tell you right now, looking at the live timing board, fastest lap right now is made by Kieran Harrison, 140.8. Not that far from him is Manuel Saralagi from Argentina. Just about over a tenth behind him, and you can see the whole pack is just full of Argentinians this time around, with the exception of one Hungarian, one Frenchman, one from the UK, and one Brazilian.
Well, 2 Hungarians actually, because Zilat Naj is from Hungary, but his club, his club representation in terms of the flag is under the European banner. So don't be confused there, because apart from the Iberian flags, which we don't want to actually make any guesses where they're from. Naj is definitely from Hungary because he has the same exact kind of name as Norbert Leitner. You can tell because Zilat is a name of a footballer who's also from Hungary, and of course Norbert the reference to Robert Mikulits, one of the GOATs from Hungary, their best ever racing driver, who is a World Touring Car Cup and World Touring Car Championship champion. Anyhow, real world lore aside, we're going to go into the virtual right now, and it looks as though Harrison has been deposed by Guy Valero. Valero is up in front, about a tenth ahead of the Brit, with Saralagi in third place.
Yeah, and this narrative between Valero and Harrison has been going on for quite a while now. I think almost since the start of the season, these two drivers have been immensely competitive with one another. Unfortunately, there were certain races where I think Harrison couldn't really pull out all the stops through circumstances outside of his control, of course. But he'll be looking to pose an even greater threat to Valero, like he always does every time we meet.
Certainly, and in this point in time, speaking of meeting, he had to let Guy Valero through. No, in fact, that was it could have been Leitner, it could have been Zilat Naj coming through. There was one of the Hungarian boys, but very wide does Gustav Kohlhavi goes onto the AstroTurf, and he had to abandon that lap. Otherwise, he would have actually been invalidating 2 straight laps. Oh wow, really pushing on the out extremities, but he is lucky that no one was near him, so he gets to fight another lap. As further behind, that is Norbert Leitner. So it was Leitner that was coming through, passing the likes of Kieran Harrison and the other drivers, jumping to the only Hyundai on the grid. That is actually Jackson Resende in the McDonald's car. Incidentally, he is a driver for Tony Kanaan Racing, so Tony Kanaan's first ever Indy car was a McDonald's sponsored car. That was a nice touch. Across the line goes Resende, who hasn't set the time just yet. He comes through, and by looks of it, still hasn't set a time yet. Yeah, he hasn't still. So as we run through the manufacturer list, well, nearly a one-way race, but as we mentioned just now, how the only driver who's an outlier was Resende. He is really brave to go in the Hyundai against the Audis.
Yeah, of course, we already know how powerful the Audis are. Best in class, I think, compared to the rest of the competition, and everyone pretty much knows that. We do have to talk about Kieran Harrison. Actually, having losing 2 more positions, Muesca and Leitner took over the fastest lap from him, so he's now back down to 4. He'll be wanting to make up for that lost time there right now. He's got a bunch of clean air in front of him, so let's see if he'll be able to pull it out.
Okay, now let's see what he can do in the final couple of corners here, coming up to the back straight. Well, not much of a straight, but it is a slightly short straight coming up to the rinse curve. And now up to turn number 10. This is the most crucial corner, one of the most crucial corners in the entire track, because if you get it wrong there, you might invalidate your lap, or if you take it too tight, it might just spoil your lap as well. And momentum, as he did, have to for a second, but manages to just beat Valero by 600ths exactly of a second ahead of the Frenchman. I thought for a second that he was raising his hands in gesticulation because he was a bit annoyed with himself, but he will be happy with provisional pole nonetheless.
Yeah, we've got about 5.5 minutes left to qualifying, so maybe about 3.5 laps. Will these drivers be able to pull out some more before they have to start the next heat? But Kieran Harrison is going to be really happy with that. You can see he slowed down a bit to let the other cars pass for the lap, as we're now on board with Dino Filippa, is behind Saralegui right now. He wants to set a fast lap this time around. It looks like he's had a bit of a change of environment now, probably different part of the house maybe. But aside from that, Dino looking good right now.
Yeah, it looks as though like he might be in his kitchen by the looks of it. But whatever it is, speculation of his housing arrangement aside, he comes across the line right now, no improvement, so he stays behind Saralagi for the time being. But look at how close that top 5 is. Less than 0.3 of a second, a bit slightly more than 0.3 of a second in it. And from Harrison to Filippa, Harrison's actually got up real good in this particular lap, by the way. He might be on for a fast one. He's only about 5 times ahead of Filippa. So again, first, even if you count first to 14 where Resende is, 1.3 seconds is a length of a hairline is what these guys are actually aiming for right now. It's so tight it's so tight in this class.
Yeah, and it really goes to show how competitive these drivers are in this particular class of cars as well. We've seen it multiple times. Whenever TCRs are involved, you can be sure as heck that these races are going to be super close right now. As Kieran Harrison still holding the fastest lap, Gal Valero is probably going to try his best to catch out right now. We are on board with Perez, and he looks like he's slowed down for a bit. Probably had to sack this lap. Doesn't have that many opportunities left to set a fast one. And it goes the same for all of these drivers right now. We're on board with Gal Valero as he's just about to finish his lap. No improvement so far, and he's stuck behind the Hyundai driven by Resende right now. We'll have to see if he'll be able to
we saw just
pull
now
one
with
out
Perez.
fast as possible.
Yeah, Perez just now actually set a 6th fastest time, as you can see what those bars mean. If it was purple like what we saw in Harrison's lap, that means you're fastest in the session, or at least fastest in the sector as well. Green's your personal best, and yellow means that you have not improved your time at all, or maybe going a bit of a lull before you can actually just get onto your fast one after this. As we look at Gal Valero, he might be setting some yellows, and in fact it was yellows because he was being held there by Resende. Now he's going to gap himself a bit so that he could get some clear air. Nash is the only driver, interestingly, who has not set a lap time just yet. And if he actually just qualifies it, he gets a bit of money and will start on pole position. So that will do him a whole world of good as we look at Muesca, or to put his full name, Carlos Muesca, driving for SART, the same team as Diego Villarreal. But it looks of it, he's going to have a bit of traffic and company here. Oh, that's not going to be good. That is Pascucci, his fellow countryman, on the racing line for a second. Every single driver on the track right now who are on their hot laps having to do evasive maneuvers, while the drivers who are just about to start their hot laps are trying to just get out of the way so that they don't become blockers. As you can see, the QR code on the right hand side of the screen, you can see live timing as it happens, so you can keep track of your favorite drivers to see whether or not they're improving. As Nash, speaking of timing, has put it on the board here, P15, but well off.
Yeah, and we can see on the track here that a lot of drivers aren't really able to improve on the time just because of how much traffic there is on the track. You think the GP layout, it's about almost twice as long as the national layout, but that still isn't a very long track, all things considered. And these cars are getting around it in less than 2 minutes. We did see Dino Felipa improve his time a little bit, but then immediately get thrown back again by Gonzalo Fabi and Saralegui here. So he's going to probably try and set another one up, but you don't have that much time left. If you're only just crossing the line now, you actually don't have time to finish one more lap.
Yeah, you'll be on the cusp of it, like the likes of Felipe and Soriano, who just crossed the line, but they didn't improve on their times. As the other drivers who have actually crossed the timing beam, this is their official final lap as we're on board with Nahil Fredes. He's got some drivers in front, so that is actually going to be a bit of a problem if he were to catch up to the back of them towards the end of this qualifying session. But by the looks of it, it may not be a fast one after all, because it's yellow sectors all the way. And yep, shake it ahead. He is going to back it off, and unfortunately, that will be the end of his qualifying as the car pulls off to the right. That might have been Gaston Kulhavi in one of those light-colored SART cars. But the rest of the fit come through. That's Kieran Harrison there. He's got a purple middle sector. He's got cars in front. That might actually help him in the slipstream, but it looks as though he may not be able to improve his time. Across the line he goes. That's the end of his qualifying session. No improvement. And Gal Valero likewise also is into the pit, so he'll be sitting pretty for the time being, but unless... Oh, there's a big slide coming to turn 1. Unless Norbert Leitner can bring out something in the final 20 seconds that remain.
Yeah, we're on board with Leitner right now, but I think he's pretty far. Actually, no, he might just cross the line right before. No. I think this is the early sector of the race. I don't think he'll be able to cross the line then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's still only in sector 2 right now, so this is about as fast as he's going to go. So he's going to end up in 3rd place. That means he starts in P13 on the grid. Kieran Harrison there. Congratulations, Leo, with the fastest lap. He's edging out Gal Valero by about 0.6 of a second. Valero's not going to be too happy, but they will be starting it back at the grid this time around, so it's up to them to see whether or not they'll be able to make it to the front in P1.
Yeah, as you can see then, the Audi monopoly has taken a grip on the entire field. Top 14 are all Audis, with the line being led by Kieran Harrison in front of Gal Valero by 0.06 of a second, 30 points and $30 in the bag for him. Norbert Leitner, the best of the Hungarians, in 3rd. Manuel Saralegui in 4th. And Gonzalo Fabi runs out your top 5, with Argentines all the way through from P4 up to P8 with Tobias Soriano, Resident Kohavi, Fredes, Pascucci, and Chico there as well. But Resende will be a bit miffed by the fact that he is the only driver to be more than a second behind the rest of the field. We are now getting ready for heat number 1. And once again, a standing start, Damon. This will be a real true test of the driver's nerves if they could get it off the line quite well. And particularly for Resende, that is quite ominous, isn't it? Behind him, all the other cars that are not what he's driving.
Yeah, we have to see whether or not he'll be able to hold the launch, because in this particular track, I think the launch is probably one of the most important parts of the race, just because of how sharp turn 1 is going to be. Haven't seen the lights on the gantry yet, but the green flag, waiting for all the cars to load in before we start off on the race. So, Amir, I'm gonna quickly go through right now. This is a bit out of left field, but what about your predictions for this time?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna see Valero and Harrison really cover the way through. And we got green flag here on the way. We don't get enough time to get through the predictions, and it looks as though the start that Resende wanted was not there to CBC because he blocked it completely. That left Chico, Pascucci, and Fredes to actually swallow him up. As we head to turn number 1, he's still being swamped here by the rest of the Audi contingent with Naj right behind him here. But they're going to go side by side up to the hill the first time. This is going to be the first major choke point besides turn number 1, which everyone went through cleanly. Now, the tight hairpin, and in TCR cars, it's not easy to get the power in, especially on the tight corner, as Resende gets pent out. And unfortunately, the only Audi on the field has been well and truly royally screwed by that, but the rest of the field go through, Damon.
Yeah, unfortunate for the Hyundai, immediately just lost 12 positions there. Kieran Harrison is stuck behind a lot of traffic, however. Didn't really manage to make much headway. Gal Valero, on the other hand, quite not happy with where he started up. Gained about 4 positions and 5 positions now, actually, as he now enters the top 10. Meanwhile, Pascucci is in front with Chico hot on his heels, and Kohavi not that far behind as well. So this is probably going to be a quick one-lap battle right now. We'll see if Pascucci manages to keep it under control, as Resende immediately, in the span of 1 lap, gets knocked to the back of the pack, which is really unfortunate for the Hyundai.
Yep, qualified the slowest of the lot, about 1.2 seconds behind the time set by Kieran Harrison, but we can't dwell on it too much because Resende still at least has 11 laps to make up that deficit, with the likes of Muesca and Harrison still in touch with him. And speaking of Harrison, he's not made the best of starts, hasn't he? Because he's only gained, yes, he did gain 2 positions, but he would love to have gained more from the get-go, because up in front, Nico goes ahead, Pascucci follows him in the slipstream, tucks into turn number 1, and Fredes in P3 is where Harrison, Valero, and the like will be really wanting to be.
Yeah, and you can see the gap between all of these cars, so minute, so small. You can see the picture-in-picture Resende incident here. Little bit of a love tap coming in from one of the cars in the back, that forcing him off of his line, causing him to lose control of the car and immediately losing all of the positions that he was handed to earlier on in qualifying. Val Valero now, you can see he's still back in the top 10. Actually lost a position there to Gonzalo Fabi, but he's eating it back. And Harrison, not that far behind him actually. Oh, a little bit of a contact there from Valero and Saralegui. Valero having to be forced wide there. We'll see if Fabi takes advantage there. He does, and takes over the position right now. Meanwhile, the battle for P1 is still heavy, with Chico and Pascucci still grappling for that top spot. But all things considered, these 2 laps have been very neat and tidy for the rest of the pack.
Yeah, it's been quite a compelling couple of laps as well, given all things considered, because sometimes the thing could just kick off from the off, but everyone keeping their powder dry and the professionalism very high for the time being, as they come out to the rim curve side by side between Fabi and Harrison, with Leitner looking behind there to pick up the pieces. And it looks as though it was actually Naj that sent Resende spinning, well, not spinning, but sliding slightly coming into the hairpin section. But apart from that, it's been really good. This is really nice to see after the absolute mayhem that we saw in the MX-5 Cup cars around here on the short Red Bull ring layout. It was exciting, but it's also unfortunate it came at the cost of a few drivers, as by looks of it, Harrison's not pleased with the way that Fabi and Lightner were actually ganging up on him, and he was flashing his lights for a second. As up to the hairpin again comes the Pico up in front. Scoochie in second, Kohabi third. There is our camera shot and a half. Really nice to see how the snake come through up the hill here. It's still nothing in it between the entire top 15. First, all the way to from Chico all the way to the center, you can still see him. That's how crazily close this race is so far.
And it's really amazing to see just how close this field is. A very competitive class of cars, of course, as we mentioned before. But regardless, to be this close to each other and still not cause any incidents really goes to show how much driver mastery and car control is paramount, especially with cars like these. Highly aerodynamic, highly grippy. So there are certain points in the track where you might end up going a little bit overzealous and causing an incident. But the drivers, very professional, managing to keep everything very well handled.
Yep, again, it's nice to have a little bit of respect among your fellow peers, given the fact that you are going off for the common goal, which is to take the checkered flag first. But to do that in between, you do not want to actually do any unnecessary incidents that will jeopardize that particular strategy. As speaking of that, further behind, it looks as though Valero has actually lost sight a bit. No, it's Saralagi has actually lost sight a bit of the rest of the top 10 as Harrison, Valero, they're going 4 wide to turn number 1. Behind them is Lightner Muesca, and it looks as though it's Harrison who got a good run out of turn number 1, gets ahead of Gal Valero, but he's got Saralagi to get by, and then he can set his sights on the rest of that top 10. But it's all just going, kicking up just slightly here. The temperature's rising up a bit, but it's not as frenetic as we've seen in previous races. But no doubt, the drivers are going to be sweating through their gloves right now.
Yeah, and Resende actually making some progress up on the field, is up to P13 now, made it past Gonzalo Fabi and Muesca. Yeah, you're right that that Saralagi is now the break point between the two packs right now. Kieran Harrison will have quite a bit of challenge on his hands in order to make it closer to the front half of the snake right now. And it's a 20-minute race, so we don't really have that many laps. You can see we're already a quarter of the way through the race right now, so I'm not really sure how much time Kieran Harrison has.
Yeah, this is though the prediction that you asked just now may not come to fruition because Valero and Harrison are far away from where they really want to be. But again, it throws out a very interesting race as we can see Pascucci and Soriano trying to line one up on Chico, but Chico's not faced by that. And likewise behind it's Felipa, who's actually holding on from Gaston Kulhavi. Top 6 are all Argentines, with the other Argentine holding P9. So by our count, about 7 Argentines in that top 10. How they would love to actually hold on that towards the end, and they're working together here up in front to make sure that particular dream happens. Meanwhile, Saralagi and Harrison, that's your battle for P9 and 10. They're both in the points in the top 10 right now, but how they would love to actually get up to the rest of that top 7. They are slowly inching away from them.
Yeah, and apparently something might have happened to Gonzalo Fabi, that he ended up in the pit lane, only just exiting now. I think he might have bottled it somewhere. Not sure what happened. We might not be able to go back and see it later on. But Harrison there, still trying to make headway. Actually, in a pretty good spot, all things considered. He started last on the grid and made up about 7 positions, which is honestly a pretty good sign of the things to come, especially when he'll be starting Heat 2 at the front half of the pack.
If he finishes where he is right now. But again, we're not even at half the way point of the race at Heat at this point. Anything can still happen here, but with an Argentine armada up in front, that they're controlling the pace, and dare I say it, they're working together as well, actually, to just increase that. We saw that just now between Ramos and Lopez at the first heat in the AMX 1 race just now, how they were just inching away from Jay Hanan. This might be the same case. These guys might not be part of the same team, but they got the same mindset that they want to work together to keep it clean at the front. But having said that, you can see that looks like David Perez, isn't it? No, in fact, no, it's not Perez. It's Fredes in the voracious car, dragging Perez and Harrison along for the ride here. Saralagi behind with them. Really nipping tuck stuff, but for the time being, it's still an Argentine armada, 1st and 6.
Yeah, and honest to God, this is probably the cleanest first half of a race I've ever seen. Almost no incidents have occurred right now, which is honestly really amazing. But of course, we do have to consider the fact that we still got half of the race to go. There, you can see Perez actually trying to overtake Naj. Naj taking away the position away from Perez. He's getting knocked down a few levels in terms of position and giving Kieran Harrison time to catch up to the front half of the pit. The gap was about 2 seconds earlier on, is now down to 1.6. So we're just gonna have to see. There's still a bit of time.
Yep. And Perez actually gets back in front of Naj there. They're still going at it side by side. And Harrison is ready to pick up the pieces here. He's watching brief. Behind them, behind all of them, in fact, it's Saralgi, Valero, and Leitner, with Leitner going side by side. No, that's Perez and Naj. So they're still going at it, hammer and tongs here. It's the United Nations man against the European, or in this case Hungarian driver, because that is the United Nations flag. We can confirm Perez on the outside now, with Naj on the inside, which becomes the inside for Perez. Gets the move done, stays ahead of the Hungarian, and well, all the time that they're swapping, they're gonna bring Harrison really firmly into play up this, with the rest of that top six inching further away. That Argentinian Armada, as just keep said, is the mindset set by Diego Maradona, the late great Diego Maradona, of course, a real talent that we sadly lost way too soon.
Yeah, and because of that battle right now between Naj and Perez, Harrison is closing the gap in between the front half and the back half of the pack. And all the other drivers behind him are also closing in. So right now we have a pretty long snake here. As you can see, Soriano tries to make Felipa there tries to make a move. Soriano does make the pass happen. Forces, I think that is Chico's car, going a little bit wide there. Flashing lights, not quite happy with that, but Felipa is going to make it through. Will Soriano do the same? Yes, he will. The question is whether or not the pass will stay. They're both in each other's draft as they're coming up to the ladder. They're still halfway through sector 2 of the race right now. So, very impressive move from Felipa. Good use of mental attack.
Yep, and making use of a driver that went off just now. That was Gaston Kulhavi to take that free position, but it has broken up the battle that we had up in front at one point, because it was Pascucci and Kulhavi battling for it. Now that Kulhavi's fallen into P4, he has to do the fighting as well. And he's got his teammate right behind him as well, Martin Chico. So they do not want to come a cropper, not at the most crucial junction race, because we're coming into the final half of it. As once again, that was beautifully illustrated how the camera sees from first all the way up to P12 right now. Valero, they're still within earshot of each other. They're still not breaking away. So again, it's going to be a grandstand finish, but what we saw just now was just with two cars. We're going to have it with at least half a dozen of them, or even more.
Yeah, if we're looking at a live timing board right now, the fastest lap is being held by Dino Felipa, but all these cars are still relatively close to each other in the 41. So again, anything could happen. And here Harrison probably doing a good job of catching up to the front of the pack. He's now on the tail end of the snake. Now you can see how many cars are going in for a little bit of a dive there. Will make it past Dylan Naj. Let's see if he manages to make it stick as they're coming out of 3 and into the next long straight sector of the race. It looks like he's able to make that pass stick, but they're coming into a next hairpin right now. This could be a hair raiser for both of these drivers right now. Keeping it clean, nice and tidy on the entry, very good on the exit as well. And now he just gained a position for free, which is a great overtake from Kieran Harrison.
Certainly, and Naj didn't put up too much of a fight, because he knows that if he went narrow there, he will go off into the big gravel trap, almost like big sand dunes here. That's how old school this circuit is, despite with the modern facilities all around. It does give a bit of a challenge for drivers to not muck it up and just let the guy behind come through. So Naj did the sensible thing to just let Harrison by and then refight with him in the case of he might just get the position back. Now Harrison behind Perez, behind Fredes and Chico. That is the target that he has right now, at least the top 5 finish. But really, it's quite hard to do so when all the Argentines are still together here, top 6, despite a couple of positions changing. They're still in a pretty strong position, aren't they, Damon?
Yeah, definitely, and really, very clean race from everyone thus far. I'm amazingly impressed right now, as Harrison is still finishing ahead of Valero. So I think he'll be happy with that at least. Right now, he is still trying to make his way to the front half of the pack right now. I just said right now way too many times. Anyways, Harrison there still trying to mount an attack. We've got about 3 laps left in the race as they're coming up to the second sector after turn 3 into turn 4 as they're entering turn 5 right now. Doesn't seem like any big money moves as I say that, and Kieran Harrison just goes in on Perez. The nice dive and then the clean overtake afterwards. Amazing drive from Harrison.
Yeah, he had to go narrow when he overtook there, but the dive caught Perez napping, and now he's on the cusp of the Argentinian Armada right in front of him. So Harrison, good recovery drive. He is one of the biggest gainers. The other one being Dino Filippo, who started in P10, is now on the cusp of winning this first heat. Boy, only about just under a tenth of a second as they come out now to start lap 10 out of 12. Does Filippo go for it? No, in fact, Pascucci goes narrow, keeps the inside line, and does hold on to P1 only for the time being. Let's see what Filippo does next time by Damon.
Yeah, it looks like they're coming to a start-finish rate, going a little bit defensive there, but Filippo is still in the draft, and Pascucci here trying to sway him out of it. They're not going to be pulling alongside each other just yet, but turn 1 does matter quite a lot right now. Soriano is just behind. I'm looking at Pascucci's POV right now with Filippo just behind him. It's a really stressful position. I mean, you can be stressed if you see one car in the rearview mirror. What if you see 7 or 8?
Yeah, that can be very stressful, especially the race leader, but he probably should have been looking in his mirrors that time because Filippo dives one on the inside coming to the hairpin and takes the lead of the heat. But for how long? Because he might have actually gone a bit too narrow there and allow Vespucci to come back with better momentum and retake the lead in returning the favor, Damon.
Yeah, definitely. And Kieran Harrison and Fredes are actually trading positions just behind them as well. Harrison actually made it past Fredes at one time, but Soriano takes advantage of Filippo's mistake on the exit of that corner. So does Kulhavi, so does Chico, and Dino Filippo immediately just loses 3 positions. And now Kieran Harrison is on his tail.
Oh, that was a major miscalculation in his overtaking maneuver. And that broke up what was the Argentinian Armada right in front because Fredes is the biggest loser of all day. He's actually dropped a couple of positions outside of that top 6 that was occupied by the Argentines. Harrison's actually broken them up. He's up to P6, ready to set his sights on Filippo, who caused the entire kerfuffle just now after outbraking himself. And suddenly, the outlook for Harrison is looking much more brighter than it was just a couple laps ago.
Yeah, I think Filippo might have been in his own head a bit too much there. Trying to focus on getting a pass done is causing a mistake. That gives Kieran Harrison the chance to break into the top 5 and hopefully secure a podium. Although it looks like with less than 2 laps remaining in the race, he probably might not be able to make as much progress as he would like. As again, you can see what a close race this has been. Heat 1, super competitive between all of these drivers. At this point, anything can still happen as here Harrison tries to make a move on Filippo as they're coming out of turn 2 into turn 3. Makes the pass stick, but will he be able to hold it on the outside there? Actually goes for a double pass and tries to make it past Chico as well. Does have a good exit, and I think as they're coming out of turn 3 into turn 4, he might just be able to make it happen. Although he has the inside track right now, does have a nicer run than Chico. Will he be able to make the pass happen just before the big hairpin? Doesn't seem like it. Chico grabs the inside line, forcing Harrison out. But Harrison, again, with a better exit, is forcing his way back into contention, trying to make it past Chico. Another left-hander. He does have the outside track this time around. Chico holding the inside. This is going to be really close there. Harrison letting him have some room, trying not to cause any big kerfuffles because of how close this race has been. Any mistake that sets them back even a slight bit will be devastating for these drivers.
Certainly the biggest driver with the biggest to lose right now is Harrison because he is up there. 10 position gain from the way he started. Valero further behind is still in his little battle with the 2 Hungarians. Naj and Leitner ganging up here as he gets pushed wide. We're on the final lap next time by. White flag will be waving. There it is. There's the white flag as Tobias Soriano goes very deep on the inside. Tries to hold it on narrow into turn 1. No influence yet. Pascucci still leads. Soriano second, Kulhavi third, Chico fourth. And Harrison, by the looks of it, is ready to inherit fourth position because that's a very good exit coming out of turn number one. As we are also watching the battle for the lead of the heat. How much these guys also have in their minds, because Kulhavi, Soriano, and Pascucci, I think by our count, haven't really had the best season or so. So they would really like to add a good points haul here with a podium.
Yeah, definitely. Here comes Harrison pulling side by side with Chico right now. Again, he does have the outside line when it comes to the next hairpin. So Chico is probably going to close the door on him just a little bit there. You can see that. Oh, Dino Filippa is also trying to make a move, but Kieran Harrison gets the runaround. Will he be able to switch back into the position again on the outside line? Not pulling far enough ahead of Chico in order to secure that position. Oh, they're side by side going a little bit of contact as Harrison tries to close the door onto Chico, not being able to make it happen just yet. But Harrison, with a great run up, doesn't have enough of a straightaway to pull away, and now going wide might cost him another position as Dino Filippa is right hot on his heels.
As Chico goes narrow, then Filippa is right on his tail. Filippa goes wide. He gets a bit of flash from Perez. There's Harrison around the outside, where Chico masterfully holds on to it for how long? Because look at the inside. Filippa's going to get both of them. Yes, he does. That was a brilliant move from Filippa for how long? Because he leaves the door open for Chico on the inside. There's a drag race to the line. Pascucci wins it by just 3/10 in front of Soriano and Kulhavi. But across the line, the whole field come through, barely separating the blink of an eye. A couple of blinks as well, for good measure. But it looks as though it is Chico and Soriano who managed to uphold the Argentine honor to finish in front of Kieran Harrison P6, with Jackson Resende, a bit of a lonely penultimate place in the field. And across the line at the back there was, by the looks of it, Luke Bennett. No, there was no Bennett. It was Muesca, but lost track of whoever was who in that particular instance. But yeah, but it was Muesca who was about 3 laps behind there. But Chico with the defending job of dreams at one point, but it wasn't enough because he got knocked out all the way to P12. I don't think this might be the correct results by the looks of it, because some of the gaps will look bigger than we last remember. But whatever it is, Pascucci, Soriano, Kulhavi, Argentine podium. Harrison 4th, Fred is 5th, Zilat Nash 6th, 7th Valero, 8th Leitner, 9th Saralagi, and 10th. And again, I think this might just be a bit of an error in the timing and scoring screen, but whatever it is, Filippa gets the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to retool that and check the replay on the leaderboard later on. But that's for our production to handle, as we now have a tall ask of getting into Heat 2. So reverse grid, we'll have to see whether or not it goes the way we think it is. You can see that, Dino Filippa actually starting way ahead, which really betrays his finish on the last race.
Yeah, but once again, we saw him. He was in that next to the top 10. But whatever it is, grid goes out here. What's number one? It's a pit lane start, in fact, for Fabi. So Gonzalo Fabi somehow probably didn't manage to grid up in time. He has to actually let the rest of the field come by. But luckily, the snake come through safely as Resende goes on the inside of Gal Valero there. In front of them, it's Norbert Leitner. Leitner, a bit of a touch with Saralagi, but apart from that, it's another clean start, Damon.
Well, we can't say anything about clean starts until we get past the first lap without any incidents, and considering the position that we're in right now, Resende is holding on to P7, but Kieran Harrison and Kyle Valero are both behind him. They're probably going to make it through quite easily, as you can see. Kieran Harrison is now trying to make a pass happen. Resende is not giving him the space, and Gal Valero takes it on the inside, and then both of the drivers pass Resende. Will he be able to make the switch back? However, it does look like he makes it past Harrison, but now there's a battle between 4 drivers in terms of getting P7 right now. Gal Valero, the biggest beneficiary, that makes it past Resende. We'll see if Kieran Harrison managed to do the same with Silar Nash just behind them, waiting for a mistake for one of these drivers. And Muesca is in first place with Perez and Filippa right behind him. As we're coming out right now, you can see Kieran Harrison is still in P8, betraying his finish at the end of Heat 1, but we'll see if he manages to claw back as many positions as he did during Heat 1, as I'm not entirely sure whether or not Resende will be able to hold that position for very long, as Silat Naj is just right behind him. Soriano and Pascucci are also holding position ground behind him, so now the gap between the 14 drivers, all 14 drivers on the grid, all 15 drivers on the grid, is about 3 seconds separating all of them.
Wow, what a close gap if we've ever seen one. Look at that, a snake from Wesker all the way to Fabi. Fabi can you see it? And mind you, Fabi actually started from the pit lane, so the field being this close concertinated itself, and that's what allowed Fabi to still be in with a shout of getting good whole points. As you see further behind, that's Pascucci, our first race winner, first heat winner, goes over the inside of Zilat Naj, takes the position away, but he still had to fight for it. As you can see the live timing on the right hand side of the screen, scan that QR code to track driver's progress as it happens in real time, so you can get straight into the action. As we look at, speaking of action, that might have been Valero, wasn't it, fighting with Saralagi and then some. They're still going at it, Damon.
Yeah, Valero actually fighting with Kieran Harrison. A little bit of contact that Harrison almost lost control of the car, but managed to keep it under control. And look at that big speed from 2 cars on the track. That's Kulhavi and Fredes. And Naj. Oh, that's
wow.
insane. I wonder what happened there. A bit of an incident from these 3 drivers, and 2 of them ended up in the pit lane. Substantial damage because I think both of them hit the barrier. We'll have to get a replay on that just a bit later on, but you can see Naj did manage to escape relatively unscathed. A little bit of a spin, but I don't think he hit any of the barriers.
Yeah, we can see obviously if he had a bit of a collision there, there'll be some scuff marks, but by the looks of it, his car and the driver get to live to fight another day. As on the inside goes Felipe. We saw him do previously how he tried to get out to the front. It wasn't really possible because it was just that close to fine margins between these cars.
Yeah, definitely. I see Kieran Harrison actually made it past Chico. There's got 1 car gap between him and Valero, but Chico's not going to give out that position without a fight as they're coming in through the latter half of the second sector. That is turn 6, I believe. Oh, little contact with Valero and Chico. Chico gets tapped. He tries to rejoin the track. Almost takes out Valero on his way back in. It looks like Valero manages to secure the position in front of him, but Chico's not going to be too happy with that, I think, because it gives Soriano time to catch up to him, and Resende is just right behind him as well.
Yeah, what a turn up for the books for the Audi, wouldn't that be it? Because sorry, the Hyundai, because it's all just been Audi one-way traffic, but the race still has not hit a quarter-way mark. It's still in its early infancy. After lap 4, now we get to see which strength the cars come to the fore. And again, because of the Audis being chosen mostly, it might just be the Audi winning out in the end. But make no mistake, if it's in the right hands, it might just be able to be competitive here. As across the line goes Felipe, Perez, Leitner, and Saralagi, with Harrison and Valero further behind here, ready to deal with drivers up in front. In fact, he's not hanging about. He's ready to attack a counter position. Coming up to turn number 3 here.
Yeah, you can see just now in the picture replay of the incident that took out both Fredes and Kulhavi. Fabi just Naj there. I think what happened was that he got tagged by Fabi and then ping pong both Kulhavi and Fredes into the barriers, one on each side. So it's quite unfortunate for them, but they're going to be just fine. They're back in the race right now, although they have a lot of ground to make up. We're now past the first near the end of the first quarter of the race. Still got about 8 laps left to go. Sorry, not quarter, third, I should say. I mixed up my numbers quite a lot.
Yeah, again, really close here between Perez and Felipe, but it's settled into a bit of a rhythm, isn't it, Damon? Because sometimes you get the early period where everyone's just trying to jostle for position, but they've hit a bit of a lull period right now, and it's evident here that Muesca is the only guy up in front who's not being challenged. Felipe, on the other hand, has a couple of people challenging him, And further behind, Harrison has gotten by Saralagi, but he is about 1.7 seconds behind Noble Lightner as we speak.
It does seem like he'll be able to make up that gap as we go along here. We're still quite early on in the race, still within the first half, so at any point in time, anything could happen. Of course, as we've seen earlier on, Harrison would probably try to do his best to seize the opportunity. As we look at a live timing board right now, you can see the fastest lap is actually being held by Kieran Harrison there, so he is pretty on the pace. However, here it comes. Norbert Leitner tries to make a move on Perez, makes it stick out of turn 3 right now. Very clean pass and a nice dive from Leitner. Leitner holding that position in front of Perez right now. We'll see if Perez tries to claw it back. He's just behind Leitner right now, bumper to bumper with each other. This battle might end up slowing both of these cars down, giving Harrison more room to catch up. Gap narrowed down from 1.7 to 1.4 seconds, 1.2 seconds as a matter of fact. Their battle definitely slowing them down a little bit. Felipe is just slightly ahead of them, trying to make a move on Muesca. So right now we're looking at a potential 5-car battle for P1, although we're still a ways away from Harrison joining this fight.
Yeah, 1.2 seconds is quite a big ask, especially given the fact that these are the same cars right now. So similar spec cars, when you have a gap like that, it has to be dependent on how well you can drive it and whether or not drivers around you can make a mistake. So Harrison will be betting a bit of both, hedging his bet on that and then some to get out to the back here. But you can see physically and visually how big the gap is. Across the line they go. It's a 141 exactly for Lightner, 000. But 3/10 to the good for Harrison. So at least he's catching in that clean air, making the most of it. As we are now entering the halfway point of this heat, Damon.
Yeah, and again, we have to pay attention to Gael Valero, who is still 1 car behind Harrison right now. So this battle is pretty important for both of these drivers, which is why we're paying so much attention to them. But we can't understate how well the other drivers are also handling this. Aside from a couple of incidents in this particular Heat 1 was so clean from all these drivers, which is a very commendable effort from both of them, considering how aggressive the TCRs have been in races past. Definitely nice to see under control. I think the track itself does help. It's a very wide track with lots of space to perform overtaking maneuvers. You just have to be on the onus of the driver to make those things happen.
Yeah, but then the penalty and punishment for getting it wrong is so obvious. You can see how big and deep the gravel traps are. So you do not want to be that guy to make that mistake. Certainly Resende will be watching his mirrors, trying to prevent Fabi from getting by. As up in front there, Felipe and Muesca. Only 0.5 of a second, just under 0.5, separating the both of them. And Leitner watching brief. Perez, Harrison, Saralagi, Valero, Soriano. Well, in fact, no, not including Soriano because Soriano is about 1.3 seconds behind. But that top 7 we mentioned just now, you can see how close the gaps are. The numbers are flashing orange and yellow. That's how close it is.
Kieran Harrison narrowed the gap down to below a second right now, which means he's so far on pace to catch up to the rest of the field. You can see it on the timing boards right now. His laps have been ridiculously fast compared to the cars in front of the grid. And these cars, these top 4, they have to work together in order to increase the gap as much as possible, because the last thing you want is another car to join your battle.
Yeah, it's easy for first and second because they're both Argentines. Wesker and Felipe can try having that benefit, so they choose. But Leitner might be thinking the same thing, to just tuck in behind the slipstream. Doesn't want to battle as of yet. We're already past the halfway point. Now they're trying to focus on where they can make the overtakes happen. Right here, if you can get enough of a run on the inside, maybe. But you're going to have to deal with the guy if he has enough of a run on you to be defending on the outside. And then you try to make the move stick on the outside at this very corner. Lap time wise, Muesca first sector, only about 0.05 of a second slower behind Felipe. Leitner as well, gaining almost nearly a second out of it. So Muesca is really holding on to this lead here. He's not pushing it.
And he doesn't really have to in this position. He as a leader, he'll be able to set his own pace and if he's good at defensive driving, he'll be able to hold off Felipe for quite some time. But the defense can only last so long before the physical exertion either gets you or the mental exertion gets you. So Felipe is probably going to wait to seize an opportunity if Muesca makes a mistake. And Leitner there with the fastest lap, but then immediately taken over by Soriano, setting a 140.6, which is an amazingly fast lap and one that came out of left field.
Yeah, considering the fact that Soriano is outside of that proverbial fast 7, where those guys are actually much closer and they got the slipstream. Soriano is literally in clear rarefied air. And when I say rarefied air, because literally there's nobody in front, nobody behind him in proximity that we see between Muesca, Felipe, and Leitner. So Leitner is buying his options, as we can see Gonzalo Fabi dives one on the inside, takes a position away from the only Hyundai on the grid in the form of Jackson Resende. Slightly disappointing day at the office for the Brazilian. But speaking of the others up in front, Muesca, how do you think he must be feeling right now to be in the lead of the heat, but he's not home and dry just yet? He still has about 5 laps of defending here, and 5 laps of really hard defending if he wants to actually take his first ever heat win.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be sweating, honestly speaking. Like, it's kind of scary just to see like a couple of cars in your rearview mirror, let alone 4 or 5 cars just behind you, waiting for you to make a mistake. The gap between the top 3 and Perez is actually quite far, so maybe there is a chance they'll be able to hold on to it. But we all know how fast Dino Felipe is as a driver, so he definitely stands the highest chance of having forcing a move and getting Muesca into a position he doesn't want to be in. Suppose we're going to look behind. Harrison is closing the gap on Perez. He probably wants to try and shoot for that top 4 position, and he's still got quite a bit of time to do so.
Yeah, in fact, about 4 laps left to go by our count here. Anything has to happen up in front. Felipe, yep, just as I was expecting, working together with his fellow Argentine, with Leitner in P3, just 3 tenths behind here. They've actually broken slightly away from David Perez, so Perez is now going to be stuck in that no man's land between himself and the rest of the drivers in that podium positions. But Harrison, though, might be weighing up his options here, waiting to strike when Perez will be least expecting it.
And of course, I turned 5 in this particular track is probably one of the biggest points of contention, because we've seen so many overtakes happen in that particular sector of the track itself. Doesn't seem like it really. The drivers think that no really other places for them to make a move, as you see Harrison there going a little bit too wide there, losing a bit of speed, giving Saralegui time to catch up. So now we're in a 3-car battle for P4, so Harrison has to pull away, but he is inching closer and closer to Perez, and he looks like he might just make a move as they come up the rim. Who makes the pass happen immediately, and then just like that, Perez taps Saralegui on his way in. Saralegui managing to regain control of the car and gain a position over Perez, so he's not going to be too happy about that. But here in Harrison, really good spot for him.
Yeah, and for Saralegui just now, when he got tapped around, mercifully the front wheel drive came to his aid, but at the expense of tire life, because he had to firewall the throttle to prevent a spin. He loses another position to Guy Valero. So what was at one point a position that was in P5 up for grabs, he is now trying to battle to get back up into that position. As up in front here, Muesca, Felipe, Leitner, first, second, and third, separated by just under 1 second, Damon.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at this point in time, if Kieran Harrison doesn't close the gap by about half a second every lap, he's got no chance to make it to the front of the pack. So now we can really focus on the battle ahead for P1. Dino Felipe is right on the tail of Muesca right now. Muesca doesn't want to make any mistakes happen, because he knows it could cost him dearly. He will not just lose 1, he lose 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 positions. That's how close these cars are to him. Is in the lead. Felipe is biding his time. As a pursuer, you do have the option of conserving your tires as long as you maintain and keep up with the pace of the car in front. Leitner will also be doing the same, so all in all, pursuers here of Felipe and Liner are in much better positions compared to Muesca.
Yeah, Moetka definitely will be chewing through his front tires because, of course, front-wheel drive cars, that's the drawback. Your front tires are going to be shot after this. But having said that on this one, it looks as though Moetka is going to have a slightly, and I say very advisedly, slightly better lap in first year. In fact, he's just slightly better than Lightner with Felipe only 200s ahead. So he's got this race only by the scruff of the neck here right now. He really needs to get the job done if he could actually block in certain corners that will prevent his fellow countrymen from overtaking and from the Hungarian to be opportunistic.
Oh, we say that, however, here comes Dino Felipe with a move onto the sausage curb. Does he make the entry there? Doesn't look like it. Saying that I think that was the wrong corner. They were actually on turn 3, but that was a very deep dive from Dino Felipe there, and now he's pulling up alongside a little bit along Muesca as they enter turn 4 into turn 5 there. To see if they'll be able to make it happen. Dino Felipe just taking that inside line there, forcing Muesca out, and just like that, we talked about this before, Muesca makes a slightly crucial mistake by not going narrow enough for Dino Felipe to block off Dino Felipe. Now it's up to Liner to see whether or not he makes this pass happen. He also wants to end up ahead, but this battle is giving Kieran Harrison a little bit of time to catch up, so Dino Felipe has to pull away as fast as he can.
Yeah, but for how long can he hold on to that? Because he still has a job to do here to get back at Felipe. We're on board with Lightner for a second to look back. Harrison's 7/10 of a second. It might look like a horizon away, but for the time being, at least, Felipe with a priceless win on the cards here. For how long though? Because we never know what Moeska's gonna do. And Lightner with Harrison only just about 6/10 of a second behind. So if anything were to happen with these three up in front, Harrison's also there to pick up the pieces, Damon.
Yeah, white flags are out, and you can see that if you look at the live timing boards, I think Kieran Harrison may have actually gotten that fastest lap because it says 6:68 there, but it's not reflected on the live timing board. We'll have to double check later on. But regardless of who gets the fastest lap right now, this battle is the most important bit, as here comes Liner on the outside off turn 4. Will he be able to make it past Muesca? Doesn't seem like it, and Kieran Harrison is right on the tail, so he might look for an opportunity. If these two drivers make a mistake when they're so close to each other, we'll probably see the end of the races for both of them. Here comes Liner pulling up alongside. He does have the outside line, and Muesca holding the inside into turn 5, coming out of the hairpin. Looks like he's be able to hold the position for a bit longer. He's trying to close the door on Liner. Liner not falling for it. They're again side by side, and Kieran Harrison is just watching from the sidelines as these two cars are battling it out. If any one of them makes a mistake, as we can see right now, he tries to sneak his way past Muesca, not giving him the time of day just yet, but we're at the final 2 corners of the track. Dino Felipe pretty far ahead right now. It looks like he'll be uncontested for the victory in this heat. Here comes Harrison. Will he be making a move on the rim curve? Doesn't seem like it. Hasn't been able to squeeze his way through just yet. Here comes the final corner, and looks like that's all she wrote for this final lap.
Yep, and Dino Felipe managed to get a couple of drinks in between. He's drinking still as he crossed the line to drink it up and soak in the adulations of a well-deserved heat win. Noble Liner in second, 7/10 of a second behind. He battled hard against Muesca, with Harrison 4th, Perez 5th, Valero 6th, Saralagi 7th, Torano 8th, Tascucci 9th, and Resende, despite being the only Audi there, finishes 10th. But it looks as though a very happy chappy is going to be Dino Felipe, and we can't wait to hear his kind words of encouragement, or how he actually managed to just hold on to that win in that particular heat. Kulhabi in 14th, and 15th is the last of the Voracious cars. It was now British. So that's it. That's the end of the races here tonight. That has been an amazing run of battles and drivers really taking to the edge of what was possible with these cars. But in the end, the spoils go to Dino Felipe, who takes the $30 by just 7/10 in front of Noble Lightner and Carlos Muesca to run at the podium. It has been an Argentine day, even more so than sometimes we can safely say was the celebrations that come to see a football game at times. Reception has been good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Kieran Harris is going to be pretty happy with the spot that he got as well. He manages to claw his way back from the back of the grid twice in a row as well, and securing the fastest lap of qualifying does guarantee him a bit of a pretty penny as well for tonight's race. All in all, congratulations to Dino Felipa, our race winner for Heat 2. We'll be coming up with the results just a little bit so we can see the overall winner of tonight. But that was, all things considered, that was a very clean night from all of these drivers, don't you think, Amir?
Yeah, certainly, Damon. It is, yeah, we didn't see any major scuffles that went on from start to finish. And the winners of those races were just guys that managed to bite that time quite well, especially with the traffic. And I'm looking at the results previously. Yeah, Pascucci and just now it was Felipa just timing their moves to perfection and getting it all right when it really mattered to win both races. So, both heats. So then, we're waiting for the interviews right now, and we're gonna look through our notes here of who are we gonna be inviting on board. So I think it's fair to say we can try to get Dino Felipa first, but before we get to the interviews, we're just gonna go for a slight pause in between the proceedings to try and get on board here. But before that, Damon, what was your takeaway from both of those heats?
I mean, great racing from all these drivers. I didn't expect it to be on Red Bull Ring of all places, but fair play to everyone. I think cleanest night we've had in a very long time, and I really enjoyed it. Very intense, all things considered.
Yep, and we're still waiting for a couple of interviewees to come in and just give their thoughts here. But yeah, Felipa definitely be one of those guys that we are going to be looking at. And okay, so we don't, unfortunately, yeah, we just got a word from our producers here behind the scenes. Yeah. Oh, in fact, we do have him. So we're waiting for Dino to come in right now, and we can just proceed to the interview right after this. Okay, so
what? We're still here.
Okay, now yep, now we are. Okay, so in fact, yep, Dino Felipa will be coming through here. So, Dino, welcome to the interview. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, congratulations on the Heat 2 victory. Before we get into the particular one, let's see, can you talk us through how did it feel like to recover from... we're not sure about the results because by looks of it, you finished in P13 in Heat number 1, but can you tell us what happened in Heat 1 first, before we go to your Heat 2?
Yes, on the first race, I think I do a really good race. I recover really fast the positions, and when I was on P2, I tried to overtake the first guy, and unfortunately I have a little touch, and I have to brake a little, and I lost too much position, and then the group was too much aggressive, and I have too much incident, and I have a drive-through at the end, but this cause I can start on the first positions on the future race, and I try to win the future race, and I can do a really good race.
Yep, and that really is a nice segue to go into the second heat, which because you finished in P13 in that one, you ended up on close to the front row in P3. Was it a case of trying to be careful, or were you ready to attack? Because by the looks of it, it was sometimes a bit both. You wanted to hold your position, but at the same time, when the opportunity came, you wanted to attack.
Yes, I think the key in these races with the TCR, all the guys have really good pace. We have to to win to overtake when the other guys make a little mistake, and we have to save a lot the incident, because in track like this is really easy to make off tracks, but well, all the guys are very aggressive, and we have to make a little contact to overtake.
Yep, rubbing and racing, especially in TCR. And finally, of course, Felicidades, good job on the win. And we'll see you. Yep, and we'll see you in future races. So, buenas noches.
Thank you to all MX, and congrats for the winners. Bye.
All right, bye bye. Well, I wanted to keep it short on that one because I think he was almost out of words towards the end of how he was very happy with that one. But you can tell on his emotions that second heat really meant a lot to him, that he could crack it and just get that win.
Yeah. Well. Oh damn. I mean, what can you say other than what a night, huh?
Yeah. And once again, the TCRs just delivered on a very, very good pair of heats, especially we saw it just now. We just can't get over the fact how the field from first all the way to last was still in shot, even after quite a few laps and towards the end of the race. Yes, the field got separated a bit because of battling, but overall, it was very good. And glad to see that the TCR class really has shone through, especially for the amount of action we've had so far this season. What do you think? Do you agree with that sentiment, Damon?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, again, one of the closest races I've seen so far in AMX Global, and that is not even to discount what happened in AMX 1 earlier, because overall, this entire night has been very intense in terms of competition, but nothing too overbearing or aggressive. And that's exactly the kind of racing you'd expect to see from drivers of this caliber, right?
Certainly. And again, just the amount of drivers with ratings that are beyond what we could imagine, like 7.5, 6,000, 7,000, all the way up to 9,000 with the likes of Guy Valero, Dino Filippa as well, and several others. Luke Bennett, unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of him, otherwise it would have been a crazy number of drivers taking part here tonight. But overall, I would say, yeah, the skill of the drivers came through. The circuit itself lends with the battling, which kept the cars almost in single file, but kept the drivers disciplined, unlike what happened in Jerez a couple of weeks back, where the circuit itself, as we mentioned quite a few times in the broadcast, it did encourage the argy-barginess, and the drivers did agree with us too, actually, because the tight nature of it did cause that kind of thing. But overall, I think the track and car combo, especially for both AMX 1 and AMX 10, landed itself quite well, and we were treated to some really good heats, and I just can't wait to see what other combinations are going to come up in the preceding weeks, especially given the fact that we only have 1 month left after this in competition, and then we can just wrap it up for the entire season. It's been quite a fun one, but for the time being, we're still waiting for the results. And anything else that was of note that you saw from those two heats in AMX 10 that you saw, Damon?
I think really the quality of racing kind of speaks to how good I think the Red Bull Ring is. I think a lot of people think it's a bit of an overrated track, and like, granted, I was one of those people before, but seeing the track itself being so competitive, and at least in terms of like how compact it is compared to some of the other tracks I've seen, really fun to watch.
Well, I wouldn't call it overrated, because some circuits, like, okay, probably gonna get a lot of grief for this, but some circuits like Spa, where it's featured so much in other sim games and people drive that as their go-to circuit, it does become overrated through time. But the Red Bull Ring, I would say, is an underrated gem, actually, because, okay, it's one of my favorite personal tracks, but it's what you can get out of it if you can drive well is really rewarding, and the racing as well, especially side by side. We're now gonna get the results up onto the screen, and let's see what we are gonna get entailed out of this. So it's Harrison, in fact, who manages to get it despite not winning a heat with $62 on his pocket. Dino Felipa, unfortunately, we didn't get him or Noble Liner on the picture here, but no doubt we saw how Felipa looked like. He'll be smiling ear to ear. He gets $50 for his races. Noble Liner in third. Then after that, Valero and Pascucci tied on the same number of points. Sarah Lugi, Soriano, Muesca, and Kuhabi, in fact, are almost the same points. And running out your entire top 10 is Gonzalo Fabi. So, bro, to really sum up how competitive races are, some drivers end up having the same number of points. That is amazing.
Yeah, and it really speaks to the volume. How well Kieran Harrison did. Biggest winner, of course, because he did get fastest lap in qualifying, and then in both heats, he scored a relatively high position, which solidified his lead over the other drivers. Because we can see Dino Felipa didn't have the best first qualifying, which probably set him back a little bit. But regardless, congratulations to the top 3 drivers. Closing out tonight's races, what are your final thoughts, Amir?
Yeah, I think once again TCR just delivers. We just really cannot understate the point of how, despite being the having multiple makes in one class, what it became single make in essence, the racing's good. So it does give us a lot to look forward to, especially when we see that on the schedule that comes up. But in terms of scheduling, that's the end of our broadcast here tonight, but we can see the socials at the bottom. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitch, X, AMX Global Discord, where you can see the drivers post some funny stuff on there, or you can actually interact with them, or however you want it. Everyone's welcome in there. Live on AMX Global as well on YouTube, and of course beside the Twitch broadcast. Sign up for the races via the amxrace.com website, and finally, short form content on TikTok. But that is it for tonight, and I think we don't need to have any more final words on closing, because we've already said quite enough gushing as well over some of the aspects that we had for tonight. But I think from me, Amir and beside me, Damon, that is it. We will be seeing you guys next time for more racing on AMX Global. But for now, it's goodbye and drive safe.
See you on Saturday.
I won't try to talk you into changing your mind. I only ask that you behave justly.